All right, good evening and welcome to the January 27th meeting of the Falmouth Zoning Board of Appeals here at Falmouth Town Hall. Calling the meeting to order, and we'll ask everyone to please silence their cell phones at this time. I'll introduce the board, starting on my far right. Your far left is Jerry Patamas, who is an associate member. To my immediate right is James Morse, who is a full voting member. My name is TJ Hurry. I'm the chair of the board. To my left is Bob Dugan, who is the board's clerk. Also with us tonight is Noreen Stockman, who is the zoning administrator, and Ashley DeMello, who is the recording secretary for the night. The Zoning Board of Appeals is charged with applying the zoning bylaws for the town, and we consider requests for special permits, variances, and appeals as provided in the bylaws, which have been approved by town meeting and the Attorney General's office for the Commonwealth. All decisions the board makes is made through the public hearing process. The board's goal is to hear testimony from the applicant, from the public, and also to allow a full and fair discussion of the project prior to rendering a decision. To begin each hearing, the clerk will read the public announcement of the hearing and then present any pertinent information from the file, such as referrals from town departments, and summarizing correspondences to the board. The applicant or the applicant's representative will then have 15 minutes to make a presentation, and time may be extended by vote of the board. The board will then question the applicant, and the public will be invited to comment as well. Public comments should be directed only at the project itself. We ask you to please refrain from making any personal or derogatory statements. Public comment can include an opinion in favor, in opposition, or it might just simply be a question about the nature of the project. The chair will limit discussion in the interest of time in the event that comments become repetitive. All members of the public wishing to speak should wait to be recognized by the chair. You should come to the podium to your left here, and we ask you to please state your name and address for the record. We do typically limit public comment to 2 minutes per person. We ask you to stand behind the podium while speaking. Speak into the microphone. That microphone is for amplification, it is not for amplification within this room. It's for the benefit of those watching at home on FCTV. The board will then either close or continue the hearing. When the board is satisfied that enough information has been presented by testimony and in the file to make a decision, by motion and vote of the board, the hearing will be closed. In the alternative, we may continue the hearing to a future date and time certain. After the hearing is closed, no more testimony may be taken. And as for board discussions and decisions, the board may then further discuss the project among ourselves. We would make a motion to deny or approve that it be made and voted upon. The motion will include a summary of key findings and conditions. An affirmative vote of 4 members, which is a supermajority, is required for approvals of motions on special permits, variances, and appeals. A split vote, such as a 3-2 vote, is a failure to carry and would result in denial of the project. Under Massachusetts general law, if a special permit is denied, the applicant cannot return to the board for 2 years unless the project is substantially different. So turning to the agenda for the night, we do have public comment, followed by 1 continuation, 4 new hearings, and a few items on our open meeting list. So up first for tonight is public comment. This public comment period is meant for something that is not on the agenda. So if you're in the crowd tonight wishing to speak on a project, hang tight, and I'll make the appropriate announcement during each hearing process. But for now, is anyone out there with anything to say for something that is not on the agenda tonight? All right, seeing none, and I'll just also make the announcement, since we are all required to wear masks, I'm trying to take my time and speak a little louder and a little more clearly. That way everyone in the room can hear us, so I'll just ask for everyone to do the same. So on now to our continuations. We have application 61-20, Echo Land Development LLC, 0 Percival Road, Lot 4 and T-Ticket, requesting a comprehensive permit to construct 16 single-family dwellings. 4 dwellings will be affordable. And for the applicant tonight, Mr. Montero.
So, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, so we did get submittals by Mr. Montero of additional plan changes. They did not come in a timely manner, so the peer engineer will not have time to review them for this meeting. Town engineering had a chance to do a very brief review as of today that just went into the file today. They have a list of concerns in their brief about 35 different subjects. In there was also a situation where the property, it was mentioned the road actually might be able to be widened. That land is not town-owned land. We did get a letter in from the owner of that parcel that said that that is a privately owned parcel. So there'll probably have to be some kind of a title research done regarding the possibility of widening the road. But because of all those situations and we don't have all the information, I would suggest a continuance for them, the applicant be able to talk to the peer engineer, I guess town engineering, on all these issues that have arisen here. And then our closest next available date, soonest date would be February 24th of '22. So I don't know if Mr. Montero might have comments.
Mr. Montero?
Can I ask you a question? Did that come from the town engineer? You said there's other issues?
Yeah, so just, there's a note in here from tonight. I didn't see it till now. Data 127. I can read it briefly if you want. Engineering Department was forwarded an email from Noreen Starkman, the zoning administrator, with updated plans for Rosewood Estates project off Percival Road. The project is under peer review. However, we briefly reviewed the plans and wanted to note some areas of concern that require additional attention by the peer engineer, by the peer review engineer. It isn't clear if issues raised in our 3/10/21 memo were addressed. Does the applicant have the right to upgrade the portion of the road as proposed? Does the applicant have the right to construct the shared driveway in the area labeled as 22-foot wide future road widening easement? Why did the submitted plans show a property line different from the plan recorded at Plan Book 587, page 39?
Mr. Chair, this is not confidential, is it? So can
No.
I give
No,
my
it's
copy
not.
so he can read it while you're reading it? I mean, there's 35 bullet points.
Yeah, well, I think what's gonna have to happen is they'll actually have to send this to Mr. Montero, so he has everything and he can go over with the engineer.
It'll be sent to him, Jerry.
I just don't know if you wanted to right now.
That's fine. I would just like to say, at the last hearing with the peer engineer, when they reviewed the plans, basically when the 5 items that they had really had nothing to do with altering the storm drainage. And obviously, when he was speaking, he said from the engineering standpoint, we accept them. We make sure they fall under the bylaws. There isn't really anything outstanding. Basically, if you go back to where you're talking about widening the road, that was only a suggestion. It was not needed for the project, where I mentioned it was Mill Road, that the property abuts up to. The abutter that's writing the letter says they own the land is to the west of that. So as far as the peer engineering is concerned, everything was complete, and the only items that they had on there was conforming to whatever the drain storage was. So, for example, they want to know what the size of the dry wells were. Dry wells were on the plan from the storm engineer, because that's what's going to carry over to the project, not what was on the plan. You noted on the plan. So, for example, you want to know if they were what they were. It was in the storm drainage report. There were 600-gallon leach pits with 5 feet of stone on each side and 2 underneath. Another one he had was where he has PD1 and PD3. He wanted to see what the grass area was. He did mention grass. All we did was say there was a 10 by 20 area for any of the areas that where the drainage was. Another one that he had was one of the inverts on one of the pipes only showed maybe like 1/4 of an inch pitch. That's irrelevant for when you start construction, because that could change, and if there was any difference, you'd call the engineer on site to make any changes on that. The fourth one he had was there was two houses, house, I think it was 14 and 15, where they said there was a foot difference, and it wasn't shown. It's shown on the topo. He wanted it shown on the house, because it shows a topography of 42, topography down to 41, which shows the 1 foot difference. So the items that he had on when he was here were items that weren't going to affect the plans that they were going to accept. And that should be noted.
Do you want to know the additional information that's
Sure.
on here? Just, so you know. So again, C was, why do submitted plans show property line different from plan recorded, Plan Book 587, page 39 at the Registry of Deeds in 2003, as indicated in the memo. 2, many of the submitted plans have property line geometry and dimensions to property lines that are endorsed only by a registered professional engineer. Plans with this information must be stamped by a professional land surveyor. 3, the file Rosewood Echo 1 PDF is not sheet 1 of the plan set. It's a duplicate of Rosewood Echo 11 PDF, which is the first sheet of the proposed drainage map. 4, the plan set is difficult to read in general. Labels are covered by lines. There isn't enough differentiation in line weight. Objects are on top of each other. Text is too small to be legible. Labels are missing, and various other issues. Eventually, the board will have to reference an approved plan set in an approval. The plans as submitted would not serve very well as record plans. Additional sheets may be required, for example, a layout plan, but at the minimum, the plan should be reviewed and revised for clear presentation. 5, we recommend that an enlarged detail of the intersection be added to the plan set. There's a lot of detail proposed in this area, and it isn't clear at the scale of the drawings. 6, on sheet 2 of 8, the printout for the profile appears to be missing information or is not clear. Some of the issues: A, there are not grid lines on the profile. B, some labels indicate that there are vertical curves there, but vertical curves are not shown. C, the bottom profile shows stormwater structures, but the top one does not. D, typically existing and proposed grades are labeled every 50 feet. E, some of the text is too small to read. F, there is not enough differentiation in the profile lines. G, the water main, property line, and center line alignment are hard to differentiate for the first 150 feet from Trotting Park Road. 7, how will the pavement transition to the dirt surface of the existing Percival Road? 8, it looks like there is a Cape Cod berm against the sidewalk on the south side of the driveway. Sidewalk should be separated from traveled way, either horizontally grass strip or vertical curbing to protect pedestrians. 9, while this is a shared driveway and not a road, emergency access concerns do not change. Emergency vehicles must be able to access and maneuver. In Falmouth, T-turnarounds are typically required to have an 18-foot wide of pavement and 80 feet in length. 10, the site distance sketch on sheet 6 of 8 is not correctly drawn. Please refer to the site distance sketch found on the Engineering Division's website. The drawing is a summary taken from Mass DOT. 11, is there a landscape plan? Any proposed development signs should be shown. 12, is there a lighting plan? The light shown along the sidewalk should not impact the abutters across Percival Road. 13, the drainage area map sheets are split across drainage subcatchment areas. For example, the entire PDA 3 is not shown on any single sheet. The viewport should overlap so a drainage area is completely shown. 14, on the EDA plans 50 sheet is labeled on several lines that are visibly different lengths. Are the TC flow paths drawn correctly? The plan should be corrected and should match the data in the current stormwater model. 15, not all the contributing areas appear to be accounted for on the EDA plan. All areas on or off-site contributing to a design point or stormwater structure must be accounted for. These plans appear to show drainage areas only within the site. Stormwater drainage areas do not obey property lines. 16, not all contributing areas appear to be accounted for in the PDA plan. All areas on or off-site contributing to a design point or stormwater structure must be accounted for. These plans appear to show drainage areas only within the site. Stormwater drainage areas do not obey property lines. 17, the grass channel number 1 in PDA 1 is directly adjacent to the septic system for a house in this area. What is this structure and what is the setback to the septic components? 18, the septic system near PDA 2 appears to fall within the depression, which appears to be part of the site stormwater system. What is the structure and what is the setback septic components? 19, the grass channel number 2 in PDA 3 is close to the septic system for a house in this area. What is this structure and what is the required setback to any septic components? 20, is the TC path for PDA 3 the longest for the drainage area? The west boundary appears to be hydraulically longer. 21, are the deck areas included in PDA 1, 2, 3, and 4A? The labels on the plan only indicate grass and woods, not impervious areas. 22, where does PDA 4A discharge to? There doesn't appear to be a design point or stormwater structure labeled on the plan. 23, the proposed edge of the woods line does not appear to follow the limit of work. Note that changing this line would change the cover used in the drainage calculations. 24, sheet 5 of 8 shows an outlet control structure and outfall. The PDA plan, sheet 2 of 2, does not show this. 25, will there be easements for the stormwater structure in the rear of the houses? The grass swales and depressions will require maintenance and prevention from the homeowners, modifying them in order for the stormwater management program for this site to operate as intended. 26, while this project does not appear to be subject to the stormwater management regulations, many standards found in the Structural Best Management Practices section of the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook are typically held for design. For the infiltration basin, some of these may want to be evaluated. A, were any test pits performed in the infiltration basin? The structural BMP manual recommends a minimum of 1 test pit for every 5,000 square feet of basin area. B, drawdown devices are typically required for maintenance. C, monitoring wells are typically required to be installed. D, emergency overflows directed towards an adjoining property typically require a drainage easement. E, unimpeded vehicle access is typically required around the entire basin perimeter at a width of no less than 15 feet. F, typically only bottom area exfiltration is accounting for in the infiltration basins, not the sidewall area. G, the setback between infiltration structures and Title V soil absorption areas is 50 feet. The distance between these components should be shown on the plans. H, the setback from property lines to infiltration structures is 10 feet. The setback should be shown for these components on the plans. Drainage calculations were not sent to us. We downloaded the current file from the ZBA website to compare the 12/3/21 calculations to the plans. If these are not the most current calculations, some of the below issues may have been addressed in later revised calculations if those do exist. 27, where does PDA 2 discharge to? There's a depression on the plans that doesn't appear to be modeled where the subcatchment likely discharges to. Overflow of the depression could discharge in the direction of the Douglas Pequard parcel. 28, it appears that the 2 separate areas shown in the plans, PDA 4 and PDA 4A, are combined into PDA 4 in the calculations. The model does not match the plans. PDA 4A would not discharge to the infiltration basin that PDA 4 would. Where does PDA 4A discharge to? The TC flow path indicates discharge would be to the Gonzalez lot, but this isn't in the model. Town zoning requires all stormwater to be maintained and infiltrated on site. This area does not appear to conform to this. 29, while reach T is useful to see total discharge off-site, this model is missing design points. For example, overflow of the grass channel GC would discharge toward the Sherman Family Trust parcel. This should be considered a design point of interest. 30, the TCS used in the calculations do not match what is shown on the plans. 31, minimum TCS in stormwater calculations should be 5 minutes. PDA 2 uses 3.4 minutes. 32, the area on the plans do not match what is used in the calculations for PDA 6. 33, the infiltration rate used in the calculations equates to Rawls rates for sandy soils. The grass channels in infiltration basin are loamed and seeded surfaces. The infiltration rate does not appear to be appropriate for these surfaces. 34, are the forebay and basin models as one unit? Do the calculations account for the volume of the broad-crested weir between the forebay and the basin? And 35, is the surface area of the basin model as impervious in the model? Precipitation directly onto the basin surface should be accounted for. So that's what's in their memo.
Well, what I can tell you on the new plans that we had, going with peer review and the storm drainage report that met the 100-year stream drainage, everything complies. So I'm not sure if he has the current plans that we sent over, or he was looking at a previous plan. But peer engineer, drainage engineer, and the civil engineer were in agreement for the plans that you were looking at on the last hearing.
Yeah, so to be honest, I couldn't answer that question because this is well beyond my pay grade as it is. But all I know is that with the plans that you resubmitted this week, because they came in so close to it, that
What?
there's no peer engineer that we can have here to even,
Right.
go over with the dialogue with you to find out what
No, I understand that.
situation.
But it sounds like who was the engineer on that one that,
This is coming from Scott Schluter, the staff engineer with the town.
And I would suggest that some of these may be debatable, some of them may be right, some of them may be wrong, but until your engineer and the town engineer and the peer engineer get together, we won't be able to make a decision.
no, I understand that.
Regardless of, this came in late, it came in late.
Oh, no, I understand that.
And if a widening situation is something that you do decide you needed to do or
No,
wanted
I
to do, then
did-
there's other issues with that.
I did not need to widen the road. The road is self-contained onto the property. It was just mentioned that the easement that originally the parcel with the 22.8 acres had was supposed to be continued to Mill Road. It's not part of the approval. It's not something I need for any approval on the land because the road's on on my own property.
Have you seen the abutters letter? Did we send it to them?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, I just.
No, I've seen it.
Just want to make sure we all have the same information.
And can I get a copy of the, what you just read?
Yeah, Noreen, you'd send that to him, right? I mean,
Can we give it to him right now? It's not confidential.
Yeah, if you want.
yeah.
You can
and
have
then
my copy.
You can follow it up just so he knows.
I
you
don't
got it.
think there's, yes.
All right,
So again, for date-wise, we'd be looking for a continuation to February
so
24th.
before we make a continuation, I just want to get through public comment since we
Yeah.
did. So public comment, is there any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this project tonight? Anyone at all? All right, not seeing any? So we are looking at a continuation based upon our discussion tonight.
To February 24th, and then Mr. Montero would have to sign an extension.
All right. Mr. Montero, you're in agreement to sign an extension?
So then I'd make a motion to continue to February 24th, 2022.
I'll second.
All right, motion was made by Bob, second by Jerry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Should put my glasses on. She's that top line and date. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montero. Good night.
Right.
Right, on to our new hearings, starting with application 108-21, McCoy, 59 Ellsworth Drive in East Falmouth, requesting a special permit to remove a portion of the existing deck and construct an addition in its place.
So I'm gonna take the mask off to read because I can't deal with the glasses. All right, so application 108-21, Mary P. McQuad, 913B Ridgefield Circle, Clinton, Mass. Applied to the Falmouth Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to sections 240-3C of the Code of Falmouth to remove a portion of the existing deck and construct an addition in its place on subject property known as 59 Ellsworth Drive, East Falmouth, Mass. For referrals from Scott McGann with Health, he has seen the revised plan dated 1/24/2022, which relocated the roof drainage and provided a reserve area, so Health is fine with this project, and asked the applicant who visited me to present this revised plan to the office. Let's see. Concom, the proposed project appears to be located outside of conservation jurisdiction. From engineering, the application was reviewed for impacts to public rights-of-way and public utilities. Ellsworth Drive is a public right-of-way in this area. No alterations are proposed to the right-of-way. Any changes within the right-of-way would require filing a permit with the engineering division. Any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. The project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public rights-of-way. The plan includes infiltration for the proposed roof as typically recommended. We do recommend in an approval, subsection 99(1), affixing of legible numbers required, time limit for compliance. It does appear that portions of the concrete retaining wall and landscape timbers are located within the public right-of-way. Permanent installation of objects not owned by the town located within a municipal right-of-way typically require a license from the select board. And whether this matter should be addressed prior to any approval or as a condition of the approval. Planning has no comments. From Cathala Water, the water main and service must be on the plans to confirm no utility conflicts. The existing home is fed from a 1-inch service tied into a 6-inch main in Ellsworth Drive. The existing meter is inside the home, and that meets current standards. Fire department has no issues with the project as drawn. And no additional comments.
All right. And for the applicant?
My name is Christopher Ellis, 25 George Street, Plymouth, Mass. The homeowners bought this house about 1.5 years ago, sold their house up in Clinton and moved here full-time. Realized they needed more space, hired us to come in, draw a set of plans, and build an addition. The addition's going to the back of the house. The nonconformity of the house is in the front. Nothing that we are doing or proposing to do adds to that nonconformity. That's basically it.
All right. And my apologies, I should have said this before you started speaking, but there are 4 of us tonight. I'll be appointing Jerry as a voting member. Since there are 4 of us, then you need all 4 of us unanimously to vote in favor of the project.
Okay.
All right. Turn it over to board questions then?
Sure.
All right. Bob, anything?
No, so on the, I guess on the addition, so that's containing what, just a family room on the first floor?
Yes, and a full basement.
So you're not adding any additional bedrooms at all?
Nope, no additional bedrooms.
And you're already using a portion of the existing deck, correct?
The existing deck is being cut, removed, and then we're adding that section back on the plan that says existing deck. Yep.
All right, that's the only question.
It's going in the exact location of the deck that's there now.
All set, Bob?
Yeah.
James?
No, thank you.
Jerry?
You understand the requirement to go in front of the selectmen to get approval for the retaining wall, or to get a license?
I'm sorry?
Do you understand the requirement that you need to go in front of the selectmen to get approval to have the retaining wall, what's it, Bob? on your
Yeah, it's some
property?
timbers.
It's not my property, it's a client's property, but yeah, the timbers were there, so whatever we have to do
The point is,
to,
I'm not sure what the, okay, you're aware of it, maybe we'll do a discussion before we close the hearing.
All right.
Thank you.
Plans show a shed in the backyard. That's going to remain?
yes.
Okay. Does it for me. Any follow-up questions?
What is the, structures? All right, so your lot coverage is going from 17.9 to 19.6? Is that correct?
Sounds right, yep. Yep.
Yeah, structures, parking, pavings, 35.4 to 37.2?
Yes.
That's all I have.
All right. Turn it over to public comment. Any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this project tonight? Anyone at all? All right, seeing none, back to the board.
I'd like to have some discussion before we close the hearing.
Okay?
The two things, and I think it's possible, but it may not be acceptable to all, that if we were to vote, could we vote a conditional approval tonight, subject to the 2 items, I think, approval from Board of Health and the Selectman's license. I know sometimes we don't like to do that, but if not, it would just have to be a continuation.
Yeah, no, so Board of Health is fine with everything, so the only outstanding is the retaining wall and the timbers, which be the selectmen, so we can condition it that they seek a license from the selectmen to keep the timbers and retaining wall on the town right of way, and then if that is not allowed, that portion would have to be removed.
Right.
That would still allow them to go forward with the project.
We have no problem taking them out, moving them back either.
Yeah, so,
Right, so that-
It'll actually give them more parking on the road.
So that would be your two options. You could either correct the situation.
Yep.
Or if they want to keep things the way they are, we just ask that you apply for a license through the select board to maintain those items.
Yep.
So the decision, it's your choice essentially.
Well, it's not my choice. I'd have to,
yeah.
I can't spend my client's money, I don't think, but, yeah.
Yeah.
So just so you're aware, those two options are on the table for you,
Perfect.
for your clients to
Yes,
consider.
yep.
Right. All right. Anything else for comment from the board?
Maybe motion to close the hearing?
Second.
All right, motion to close made by Jerry, second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously. Hearing is closed. No more testimony may be taken.
So motion to approve with conditions.
Motion approved by Bob. Is there a
Second.
second? Thank you, James. All right, findings.
240-3C, 240-216, there is a front yard nonconformity of 22 feet. That is remaining the same. We had information from the engineering department that there's portions of a concrete retaining wall and landscape timbers that are located in the public right-of-way. And the representative for the applicant understands that he would need to get a license to keep those items there. If he could not obtain a license, those would have to be removed. They're not adding any additional bedrooms, it's just a family room. The addition is actually taking the place of a portion of the current deck. And the deck portion is actually just a continuation of the same current deck, so there's no expansion in a footprint except for the stairs. They're going from a 17.9 coverage by structures to 19.6. Which is under the 20%, and their lot coverage, structure, and parking, and paving, 35.4 to 37.2.
Anything else for findings?
No opposition to the project.
Yep, no opposition.
Anything
And they
else?
did make revisions that were, Health Department was happy with, so Health is fine with the new plan.
The client's representative indicated they may be willing to remove the wood timbers. His client may be willing to.
Yes.
Anything else for findings?
No.
Conditions?
So per plans, we'll do subsection 99.1, affixing of legible numbers required, time limit for compliance. Condition that the portions of the concrete retaining wall and landscape timbers that are currently located within the public right-of-way must be removed unless they can obtain a license from the select board to leave them in that location.
Okay.
I guess the
Might just be it,
yeah, I mean, we do the general work hours, we might as well put those in.
sure.
Is there a
no, let me
requirement
just-
from water?
Like you said, it was inside the house and complied.
We'll just put the water main in service must be shown on the plans to confirm no utility conflicts.
They're on there.
Okay, we'll just write it in anyways, and that way you're safe if it's on there.
Okay.
All right.
You
is
can
that-
put in the finding session that they did include infiltration for the roof on the plans.
All right. Does that do it?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple.
So that was a motion to approve with conditions made by Bob, second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have application 109-21, O'Reilly, 14 Montgomery Ave in Falmouth, requesting a special permit to raise the existing dwelling and detached garage and rebuild with an attached garage.
So application number 109-21, Jonathan E. O'Reilly, 16 Barrow Street, Norton, Mass. is applying to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to sections 240-3C and 240-69E of the Code of Falmouth to raise the existing dwelling and detached garage and rebuild with an attached garage on subject property known as 14 Montgomery Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. Conservation Commission did approve the above referenced project through a negative determination under request for determination of applicability, and they did include a plan of reference. From engineering, the application was reviewed for impacts to public rights-of-way and public utilities. Montgomery Ave is a public right-of-way in this area. The project requires filing a permit with the engineering division. It is not clear from the plans what material the driveway is. If it is impervious, stormwater mitigation is required. We will not accept runoff from impervious driveways onto the public right-of-way. It isn't clear if the existing cobblestone edging and landscape area are located within the right-of-way will remain. The label is shown on the proposed plans, but the line work is not. Permanent installation of objects not owned by the town located within the municipal right-of-way typically require a license from the Board of Selectmen. And you can condition this on any approval. Erosion and sediment controls, as well as construction entrance, are shown on the plans as is typically required to protect the town right-of-way. We request the board either require the applicant to obtain an approved driveway permit from Engineering Division prior to closing of the hearing, or that the board include the following condition in the special permit as if approved. The applicant shall obtain an approved driveway permit and post any required bond with the Engineering Division prior to start of construction. The applicant shall complete the work as approved by the Engineering Division in the driveway permit. 3, any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town departments. 4, the project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property abutters of public rights-of-way. 5, dry wells are proposed for the house and garage as typically recommended. We do recommend subsection 99(1), affixing of legible numbers required, time limit for compliance. We also recommend construction of this project shall follow the town's soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions, which can be found on the Engineering Division's page of the town's website. From water, the water main and service must be on the plans. The existing home is fed from a service tied into a 4-inch main in Montgomery Avenue. The new home will have to have the water meter inside and not in a pit. Planning, no comment. From Board of Health, at the November 29, 2021 meeting, they approved the septic design that is shown on the plans. Fire Department has no issues with the project as drawn. There was a letter submitted January 18th from a Victoria Dalmas. It says, please find attached letter submission in respect to the above referenced ZBA application. Please let me know if you have any questions. And it's from Senni and Associates PC, Attorney at Law, Brewster, Mass. Dear Zoning Administrator Stockman and members of the Falmouth Zoning Board of Appeals, this letter is further to my representation of Jonathan E. Spodnick, Esquire, property owner of 13 Hawthorne Ave, Falmouth, which abuts the above aforementioned property. I kindly ask that this letter be made part of the file. I plan to attend the hearing on Thursday, the 27th, and may ask for the opportunity to address the board. My client wishes to raise several concerns with the project, which is a dramatic expansion of the property's existing 2-story, 5-bedroom, 2-bath house with detached single-story accessory garage and shed building. The project proposes a newly reconstructed larger 2.5-story, 3 floors, 5 bedrooms, 4 and 2.5 bath house, which essentially involves use conversion of the detached accessory, which is the single-story 1-car garage. Building to accommodate a new 2-story building with a 2-car ground floor garage and new toilet and an entirely new 2nd-story living space comprised of a bedroom, office, full bath, and family room that is attached to the main dwelling structure via 2nd-story bridge. There is a concerning new noisemaker element given the shift from no central AC to the positioning of an elevated 2-unit central AC facing my client's home. Notably, the property, lot, and subjects and structures are grandfathered or in legal terms lawfully pre-existing non-conforming, meaning that the structures are currently oversized for the undersized lot on which they are situated. What is envisioned is aggressively imposing and encroaching in a neighborhood of undersized lots, and particularly in view of the project's proposed vertical expansion of the structures, including the new two-story garage structure with upper floor living unit, which will be situated in close proximity to my client's property, approximately 8 feet, which property line in turn is approximately 9.5 feet from my client's smaller bungalow home, rear portion also on an undersized grandfathered lot. As the property's existing structures are grandfathered, the Town of Falmouth Code, Section 243C, requires the board in considering the applicant's special permit request, ensures it is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than existing non-conforming structures. Relative detrimentality clearly exists given the project's proposed vertical structural extension within the existing non-conforming setback in its coincident reconstruction of a non-conforming accessory building, for example, the garage, to include a new use on its new second floor comprised of segregated habitable space from the main dwelling apart from the connected new second floor bridge. The project also negatively impacts my client's property from a shadowing perspective, primarily loss of afternoon light, and therefore poses added concern regarding light adequacy. Furthermore, the inclusion of 2-unit central AC situated above and facing my client's property and home in close proximity without any adequate sound buffering is another serious concern. Detrimentality is also apparent on a broader neighborhood scale in comparison to the size and height of the proposed structure to average size and height structures in the neighborhood. The property is situated in the RC zoning district, which sets out a maximum as of right percentage of lot coverage of 20% structure and 40% parking, with exception via board discretionary special permit to increase to a maximum of 25% lot coverage by structure, subject to various standards or considering each special permit request mentioned below. The following are existing and proposed percentages regarding the project's lot coverage. It says total existing structures, lot size 5,638, gross building area 3,036, floor area ratio 0.538489, percentage of coverage 37, code compliance 20%, 25 by special permit. Proposed structures, again, lot size 5,638, gross building area 3,538, floor ratio 0.627527, coverage 33%. Notably, average far across the sampling of neighborhood properties included in the application is 0.430464, thus the project's FAR of 0.627527 well exceeds the average FAR sampling of such neighborhood properties. While FAR is not specifically set out in the code as criteria of the consideration, the code's reference to height, habitable space, and dimensional considerations in the context of neighborhood of undersized lots should make it relevant to the board's analysis. Moreover, the following additional code-based considerations should be of particular relevance to the project where this densely populated Falmouth seaside neighborhood is concerned. Adequacy of the site in terms of size for the proposed use, suitability of the site for proposed use, impact of traffic flow and safety, impact on neighborhood visual character, including views and vistas, safety from fire, flood, panic, and other dangers, prevention of overcrowding of land, avoidance of undue concentration of population, adequate provision of water supply and drainage, open space, conservation of the value of land of natural resources, and encouragement of the most appropriate use for the land. Should the board approve the project, there is also a substantial risk of the above aforementioned concerns and considerations becoming more universally significant in the neighborhood, as other property owners may wish to similarly overdevelop their respective undersized lots and existing oversized residences, with ever more trending towards greater urbanization in a fragile coastal environment. While my client appreciates the applicant's desire to upgrade his 14 Montgomery Ave property, he is generally not opposed to his doing so within reason. My client would like to see some adjustments to the proposed project plans, particularly regarding the significant proximate garage reconstruction and its associated conversion of new habitable second-floor living space, ideally shifting the structure farther towards my client's lot line and flush with the main dwelling, and the project's potential noisemaker AC element, ideally repositioning the AC units lower towards the ground at the required minimum flood height with adequate sound buffering and visual landscape screening elements. Thank you for your consideration of my client's concerns. Included with this letter are several visual aids to support the board's understanding of the raised concerns. Then there are some letters in favor of the project. From Lisa Natal and Tim Flaherty, 106 Grand Ave, are in favor. They review the proposed plans, believe it's attractive, appropriate design that fits the neighborhood. From Michael Petrizzo, 7 Montgomery Court, also in support. From Edward Mullen and Linda Mullen, 10 Montgomery Avenue. We are writing to briefly express our full support of the proposed house at 14 Montgomery Avenue that Jonathan and P. O'Reilly have before the zoning board. We have known P. and Jonathan for many years, as well as their uncles who own the property before them. They are wonderful neighbors and are well aware of the special place Montgomery Avenue holds for those who live nearby. We've reviewed the proposed plans and believe it is attractive and appropriate for the area. It is without hesitation, my wife Lynn and I offer our full support of the application and ask the zoning board vote in favor of the request. Daniel Maluski, 11-13 Montgomery Ave. Again, in support. I have owned and lived summers across the street from the property since 1993. Reviewing the proposed plans, I see it to be attractive and appropriate design fitting within the neighborhood. I'm in full support of the application. From Aaron and Allison Katz at 17 Montgomery Ave, also in full support. And then from Eleanor Conrad, I think it's Seth Conrad and Daniel Hutchinson, 18 Montgomery Ave, also in full support. Neighbors from 20 Montgomery Ave and 219 Grand Avenue, also in support. Ian Cotterell and Sandra Cotterell. John Bowen, 102 and 102A Grand Ave, also in support. Susan Hiltz, 221 Grand Ave, in support. Robert LeBlanc, 221 Grand Ave, in support. They did submit a lot comparison worksheet, which is in the file, along with photo documentation.
All right.
That's
Thank you, Bob. And good evening, Attorney Clowers. So you have 4 of us. I'll be appointing Jerry as a voting member. If the board does come to a final decision tonight, obviously, you know, it'll have to be unanimous.
Understood. Before I start, given that I'm about to launch into the presentation, does the board have any objection to my removing my mask during that presentation? I'll put it on afterwards.
This, I'd say go ahead.
Go for it.
For the sake of you understanding me, I think it's in everyone's best interest.
Sure.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with Ament Clower Law Firm here in Falmouth, and I represent the applicants, Jonathan and Pia O'Reilly, the owners of 14 Montgomery Avenue. Mr. O'Reilly is here with us this evening, and I'm also joined by Greg Sarunian from Rescom Architecture. The O'Reillys are seeking permission to raise and rebuild the existing non-conforming dwelling and garage. This property, 14 Montgomery Avenue, is located very much in the Heights. It's 4 houses north of Grand Avenue and the beach. It's a very dense, largely seasonal neighborhood. This particular lot is 5,638 square feet. It's in the RC zoning district, and it is located in the AE 13 flood zone. Presently, there's a 5-bedroom, single-family dwelling with a detached garage and shed. There's a total footprint there of just over 2,000 square feet, 2,088 square feet. The existing structures are non-conforming in a number of ways. Front yard setback's non-conforming, it's 0.8 feet where 10 is required. The rear yard setback to the shed is 0.5 feet where 10 is required. The rear yard setback to the garage is 3.8 feet where 10 is required. The side yard setback to the garage is 2 feet where 10 is required. Lot coverage by structure is currently 37.1%, where 20 is allowed by right, and up to 25 by special permit. And lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking is 65.9%, where 40% is allowed by right. The applicant's family has owned this property for almost 40 years, and Mr. O'Reilly himself has owned it since, been a sole owner since 2017. It needs significant repairs and upgrades, both cosmetically and aesthetically. But given the property's location in the flood zone, the scope of improvements requires compliance and elevation of the structure per the building code and FEMA regulations. All habitable space and mechanicals must be at least 1 foot above the flood zone. That's an AE 13, which means it has to be at elevation 14, which is approximately 4 feet above the existing grade. The proposed dwelling reduces clutter on the lot substantially. It incorporates the garage into the home and eliminates the shed entirely. It maintains the same number of bedrooms as at present, 5, and includes a new Title V system designed for that many. It replaces the existing cesspool, and the Title V system has been approved by the Board of Health. All of the existing nonconformities are either eliminated or improved. The nonconforming side yard setback is eliminated. It goes from 2 feet to just over 10 at 10.1 feet. The front yard setbacks improve from 0.8 feet to 3.2. The rear yard setbacks improve from 0.5 feet to 8 feet. The lot coverage by structures reduced by over 300 square feet and goes from 37.1% down to 33.3%. And the lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking is reduced by almost 1,200 square feet. That's a reduction of 65.9% down to 44.7%, which is over 21%. In addition, this property will have the benefit of complying with the FEMA flood zone requirements. Due to the existing nonconformities, though, this does require a special permit under both sections 243C and 24069E. 243C asks the board to consider whether or not the pre-existing nonconforming, allows the board rather to change pre-existing nonconforming structures by special permit, provided that they're not substantially more detrimental than what exists. You're asked to consider the standards of 240, 216, and whether or not the alterations create any new dimensional nonconformities, compare views and vistas, and reasonably conforms to the neighborhood. In this case, it's difficult to reason that the proposal would be more detrimental. There's no new nonconformity created, and as I've mentioned, all existing nonconformities are either improved or eliminated. Again, the side yard nonconformity is eliminated, front and rear yard setbacks are improved, lot coverage by structures reduced, and lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking is reduced substantially. Further, the proposal does not impair the views and vistas of the public and does fit in with the neighborhood. Relative to the standards of 24069E, while this proposed structure is larger than at present, the increase in gross floor area is approximately 500 square feet. As mentioned, it is already a dense, clustered neighborhood with many homes of similar size and scope. Again, there's no impact of views and vistas from the public way. There's no effect of nitrogen on coastal embayments. And there's the same number of bedrooms, as there is the same number of bedrooms. We did submit a lot comparison worksheet looking at the homes within the area. A number of those properties have greater gross floor areas and larger footprints. The dwelling as proposed, while slightly larger than what exists, is by no means an outlier. We were aware of the letter submitted by Attorney Dalamas. As this board may recall, the O'Reillys submitted an application in May of last year, May of 2021. That hearing was never actually opened. It was continued a number of times as we sought to address the concerns of Mr. Spodnik. Eventually, we withdrew without prejudice to allow for additional time and changes. The applicants made a good faith effort, changed the plans in a number of ways, and were ultimately unable to address all of Mr. Spodnik's concerns. As a result of those changes, though, the gross floor area was reduced by 500 square feet, and the area of the garage, which was originally proposed to be 3.8 feet, increased to 8 feet and moved closer to the home. They did look at a number of other variations as well. I believe that much of my presentation already addresses some of the concerns raised in the letter, which also indicated that the proposal may increase shading. However, I think it's important to note that there are significant trees located between these two properties, which already provide much more shade than the alterations that we proposed to the house ever could. And I also thought it was worth noting that the O'Reillys did receive letters of support from both neighbors directly across Montgomery Avenue, as well as the abutters to either side. This project, as proposed, represents a significant improvement over the existing conditions. I don't want to belabor the point, but again, all of the existing nonconformities are either eliminated or improved, which is not something we see very often in an application of this nature. Side yard setbacks eliminated, front yard setback is improved, significant improvement of the rear yard setback, reduction in lot coverage by structures, and a significant reduction in lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking. I believe that this more than meets the requirements of 243C, 24069E, and 24216. I don't believe there are any adverse effects that overbalance the benefits that I've outlined already, and for these reasons, I'd ask that this board grant the special permit. I would, of course, be happy to address any questions or concerns that you might have.
Thank you, Attorney Clower. Board questions? Jerry, anything?
The existing plans show an air conditioning unit, I guess, when I go out to look at it. These plans do not show the AC unit. They do show the generator.
The
It may
AC,
be de minimis, but I don't.
the AC is actually located on top of the garage area.
So, okay, so it's on top, it's not on the ground.
Exactly.
And I think you did say,
Am I here? Okay.
my concern was just so long as it's
Yep.
not more.
So, right here, Jerry, is where
Okay, sorry. I
they're
missed it.
located.
And I think you had said in your presentation that the elevation of the generator would be consistent, or it wouldn't be no higher than it is no lower. It would meet the flood zone standards. I mean, as
Yes,
far as height.
Yes.
It's 14 feet, if I remember correctly.
yeah, which is about 4 feet above grade.
Whatever it is. I mean, that was one of the concerns from
Yep.
one of the neighbors.
So, just for context, where the, this area right here is where the air conditioners would be.
Correct. And I think you probably already know this. I'm also saying that the septic tank system, the subsurface disposal system was approved.
Mhm.
So the way I read these plans, the house could not be moved parallel to the existing house because it would probably interfere with the septic tank system.
We looked at a number of variations. Mr. Borselli was our engineer, and he can't make it tonight, but we did look at a number of variations of trying to rearrange the septic system in different ways in order to move the garage further, but it wasn't possible. We even looked at whether or not we could flip the garage to the front of the lot and move the septic system to the back, but it didn't fit.
Thank you. No further question.
All right, James?
Mr. Clower, is there any place else that you could put the air conditioning units that would address the concern of the abutters?
I'll let Mr. Serunian speak to that.
Thank you.
Good evening again, for the record, Greg Cernian, Rescom Architectural. So we did look at alternative locations. The reason we picked that location, again, because it's elevated, if we located it on this side, it became more, this person, this one, it really wasn't a good spot here. And, by looking at the way that current house is, it's right here. It seemed to be an appropriate spot. And it's up high, and it does have a little bit of a shield. And there'll be low ohms, as low as we can make them.
Anything else, James?
There was a comment, I believe, about stormwater runoff, whether the driveway was going to be impervious or not. Was that addressed?
Yeah, they need to. just
We're gonna have to get a driveway permit, no matter what we do. There are dry wells proposed on the plans in a number of locations, so we'd of course have to address that through engineering as part of the process.
What's the existing habitable square foot of the existing structure?
The number we had was 3,050. We're proposing 3,500 and change.
Okay. So 20% increase in bulk.
It's 500 square foot increase,
Thank you.
but a reduction in the footprint as well.
Thank you.
Bob?
Is there anything for mitigation on air units? I mean, do they make anything for sound mitigation, or? I mean, just because this comes up a lot, especially in the Heights with a lot of projects that we see.
So they are making units that have what they call, the low ohms. We try to cover them whenever we can. And, in this, if you could go back to that slide. So this is actually kind of, there's a little bit of railing here, but there's actually a cheek.
Yeah.
There's as much as we could do.
And I know you're 4 feet above for the first floor, so can you just explain how you get from the 4 feet above to the 45 feet height, so we just know how that works?
Sure. So if you look at the average grade here, the average grade is 10 feet.
Yeah.
So 10 feet, 10.15. So 45 is actually 35 feet. That's just the actual elevation grade, not the height. And right here, we have the 35 called out.
That's the other question I have right now.
So the rear elevation is what the abutter who's in opposition, that's what they're looking at from their side of the property?
I don't want to speak for them, but yes, this is the rear elevation.
I'm just trying to orient myself.
Yes. So what we're looking at here is I believe, so if you look here, this is Mr. Spodnik's house over here, and he'd be looking at it from this direction.
Could you go back? I'm sorry. It would appear that the AC unit now is on the long end of the house instead of the back end of the house.
It's located away from him, correct, on the other side of the,
Okay, yeah,
Hey.
yeah.
that's not a precise architectural
Not the
term.
same side as the generator.
No,
And it appears through the plans that the attached garage, the attachment is actually through that second floor there?
that's correct. There's, it's an open breezeway on the first floor, and it's connected at the second floor. It's a living area. If you look on.
And again, just to orient myself, can you show me that area?
Yep, so I'll actually show you on the plans. This is here, the front of the house, so this is the garage entrance right here on the first floor. So this family room is what connects the main house to the area above the garage.
Understood, thank you. Any follow-up questions from the board?
What is the current garage being used as?
I believe it's been.
I only ask
yeah.
because, there's skylights, there's a heating vent, are they using it for any habitable space right now?
What's that? Yeah, it has been. I don't believe it is right now, but it has been in the past.
So what's the reasoning just of putting the bath on the first floor in the garage? It's not to use it again, it's the same situation, right? They
No,
don't use it
it's
for
to be
car
used
storage?
as a garage.
The bathroom on the first floor, so people have to go through the house.
So if you could, yeah, no worries.
I can speak to that.
Yeah, I'm just asking because sometimes we get where
So,
you have a
yeah.
bath and a shower outside.
There's patio area right behind the,
This is gonna be their outdoor area, and just so that people didn't have to drive into the house, they've got the outdoor rinsing station and the bathroom and that. So that was sort of the intent.
And you wouldn't have any issue with conditioning no habitable space on that first floor of the garage? Oh, yeah.
All right. Turn it over to public comment. Is there any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this project?
Good evening. My name is Victoria Dalmas. I'm with Senni and Associates, 15 Cape Lane in Brewster. I'm here representing Mr. Spodnik, whose residence is abutting the subject property. He's at 13 Hawthorne. I won't, I did submit the letter, so I won't get into too much detail, but just a couple of points. First of all, my client is in support of improvements, but this particular project as proposed, in particular this garage with this new living space in the second floor, we feel does not meet the not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood standard. This is a dense neighborhood of non-conforming lots. The interior lots in this neighborhood are largely of smaller homes. The Grand Avenue Seaside homes and the Worcester Avenue Parkside homes tend to be a bit bigger. So when you run calculations of the whole neighborhood, it kind of skews the results. I think the board sort of needs to make a policy decision as to whether it wants to allow a trend towards mansionization in these interior, in this interior neighborhood. I did focus on FAR. I know it's not a part of the special permitting standard, but it is an objective calculation where you can get a sense of, comparatively, are you going to be accepting something of much greater mass and bulk, which I do think this is, even though it gives the appearance of reducing nonconformities. I do note that the AC unit is a significant concern. I have asked for manufacturing sound levels. You can get those to figure out what the noise impact might be. My client would request that this unit is not positioned where it is, up high, where the sound can bounce and travel over into his property. The existing single-story one-car garage as mentioned, has been used as habitable space. There's an AC unit, a window AC unit, that has disrupted my client's sleep in his closely situated bedroom. So there's a concern there that this is just going to get exacerbated with what's proposed. And we are also concerned with the garage itself having been used as dwelling space. This design contemplates a segregated living space with plumbing. I mean, the only thing that's not technically in there, as far as I can tell, is a kitchen. And I would ask that the board consider, as it did in case number 067-20, applicant Carl, a deed restriction on the property prohibiting rentals of that segregated above garage living space. And again, if some sort of condition can be made to protect my client against the potential noise levels associated with the AC unit, that would be appreciated as well. Ultimately, we do feel that the garage structure is over the top. We'd prefer that there remains a single-story garage structure, or that, as mentioned, I think in my letter, that the structure itself be shifted and made flush with the main residence. It's more than generous to allow what they're contemplating, which is a significant vertical rise from the existing dwelling to a 2.5-story dwelling. So this is overall, in our view, not meeting the standard before the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Thomas.
I have questions.
Sure.
Jerry, go ahead.
In your research, have you ever come across any AC units to condition this size being a noise concern? I mean, if this was an industrial complex, but this seems to be maybe not an off-the-shelf, but a standard AC unit, and so it appears you're coming from, you don't know and you want to be sure on the noise.
Well, I'm coming from a history of a problem, an existing problem. When you're choosing equipment, it's not that difficult to ask the manufacturer for sound levels. Those are standard, they come with equipment. So you can actually figure out by the science what the impact would be.
No, I probably could have done it years ago. I can't do it anymore. I mean, I would note that I don't think, you're aware they're taking out the window unit, which was their concern, and they're putting on a rooftop unit. In my experience, generally when you raise a noise level, and I think I've heard people testify to this at maybe the pickleball courts, that it reduces the ground level noise. It doesn't always in the case of the wind turbine, but in general, noise dissipation, and this is in my observation, where have you seen noise level being exacerbated by increasing it in height from ground level? You're saying because it's higher, it's going to disperse more.
Well, I'd have to get the sound power levels to be able to have an acoustical engineer look at that. Without that data, I'm in the dark. I mean, that's really the applicant's responsibility to demonstrate there's not going to be an adverse impact on my client. It's not my burden of.
I was looking for any expertise you have.
Yeah, I'm not an acoustical engineer, so fortunately I can't answer that.
Moving the garage, in my opinion, is almost going to potentially reduce the shadow effect that you're currently getting. I know you're getting maybe some, because I live close by and I drove around it, and the garage is going further away from your client's house.
But there's a part of what's happening is the vertical development that's going on here at this property.
But they are within the current elevations allowed by our standards.
I understand that.
Okay. Just want to, if I missed something.
I mean, it's really more of thinking about this standard of not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. And remember, the standards that are set out in bylaws are also contemplating lot sizes that are substantially bigger than what we have here. We're in a kind of a special category of lawful pre-existing non-conforming. So when you're applying the substantially not more detrimental standard, you have to think about that in the greater context of, not only what you potentially might do to the entire neighborhood. There could be a slippery slope here. Once you start allowing this mansionization in one lot, the next, the risk is it's going to be a trend in the neighborhood. The issues in terms of on an undersized lot, making something much more massively bigger impacts, there's obviously the shadow impact on the property, but there's privacy, the privacy element. These structures are going to be very close together. There's views, there's open space. I mean, there's a slew of considerations when you allow something much more massive on an undersized lot to be developed.
Counsel, would you agree, though, that compliance with FEMA guidelines is a compelling reason to gain height?
Yes, but it's not that my client's against development and improvement here. It's the extent that's being proposed. So it's trying to come to something that's a bit more reasonable in the context of the neighborhood and also the impact on my client, who's part of the neighborhood.
And if it was scaled down, say that, I think what you referred to as, say that the third floor was removed, would that become acceptable to your client, or?
Well, I think my client is really concerned about this garage structure. That's, he doesn't have a problem really with the house itself or the additional height going on with the house. It's this second floor development happening on top of the garage is actually getting bigger too, right? The existing garage is single story. What's contemplated is a 2-car garage with a full living space, living quarters, and a bridge. I understand there's a bridge on the second floor, connecting this unit to the residence.
Sorry. The view issue, I'm not sure what right does your client have to view based on our zoning bylaws?
Well, setback rules, dimensional.
Talking about height and view, not.
Well, this whole thing is a bigger massive structure.
That goes to bulk.
Yes.
And we have bulk policy and things like that. And the trending change in the neighborhood is, not that this is always acceptable, is to, I wouldn't call it mansionization. Houses are getting bigger, and they have to go up.
I mean,
this is consistent,
yeah,
in my view, with what's happening in that neighborhood and a lot of other neighborhoods. So I'm not sure if this is a slippery slope or just people, I'm making a speech, I'm sorry. I'm trying to understand.
Right. It's a policy decision that the board needs to make.
Okay.
Because once, a slippery slope is once you start to allow this kind of thing on one lot, inevitably the risk of it happening on many, many more lots. In the interior of this neighborhood, I drove around. I mean, the bigger houses are, like I said, on the border, the Grand Avenue and the Worcester. But the Grand Avenue, they have open seaside view, and the Worcester it's a wide park. There's a park and with the street on either side of the park. When you're driving into the interior, the streets are quite narrow, and there's many bungalows and cottages. And so if all of those lots end up being like this, I mean, that's really the policy decision that the board has to make as to whether it wants to go in that direction.
No further questions.
Anything else from the board for Attorney Dalmas?
So what was the shadow issue that he was concerned with?
Well, John, I'll let John, I know, would like to come up and say a few words. But again, it's the garage, it's the development of that garage unit, the second story of that garage. But maybe John would like to say a few words.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Jonathan Spodnik. I'm the owner of 13 Hawthorne. Could I ask Attorney Clark, could you pull up that rear elevation? Because that's just the point I think you were asking about, the shadow.
Right there.
Thank you very much. So we submitted a photo to the board. I don't know if anybody saw it, but that's the photo. So first of all, I want to thank Attorney Clower and Mr. O'Reilly for meeting with us. We had a Zoom meeting. We talked about the plans, and I appreciate their time. And I know it's unusual in a small neighborhood for there to be opposition to a plan. I've been renting this property before I bought it for over 20 years. My family owned a house in the Heights before. And it's a very tight-knit neighborhood, and people are very friendly with each other. And I explained to Mr. O'Reilly, I hope not to be enemies with him, but I did want to voice my concerns about this project because of the garage. My concern is limited to the garage. And so from that photo, you could see how close these properties are and how short a distance there is between our house and that garage. I've been renting in the Heights for years and been there for years, and, one of the unwritten things is that people take garages or sheds and make apartments out of them. It's just what happens because there's so much interest in going to the Heights and being there that these apartments, quote-unquote, illegal happen. And it's just part of life and just the way it is. Unfortunately, there's never been an accident or a fire or anything negative where there would be some questions about them, but that's what happens. And some people use them for family, some people use them to rent or whatever. And that's what happened with this garage. Mr. O'Reilly had a one-story, one-car garage that then had some addition put on it. And then, as you noted, they added heat, electricity, and had living space in it, cooking, whatever. It became a residence. So there's two residences, a small one and a big house. And now what they want to do is come before the board and say, let's make this permanent and not only keep it the way it is, a one-story residence, but we want to make it a two-story residence. That's essentially what's going to happen. And I come out my home, it's about 8 feet, 12 feet to the boundary, and now instead of looking at a one-story garage, I'm going to look up at a 2.5-story garage. It's going to be living space, no question about it. Now it's formal living space. I don't have any problem with anybody expanding their house or trying to improve it. I think Mr. Patamis, my position and my attorney's position was that there is a view to be made by the board in the future about how the Heights is going to develop. I've seen it in Connecticut. That's where I live full-time, where seasides have become 3-story homes, one to the next, few feet apart. In the Falmouth Enterprise, I just saw an article last week where now Falmouth is going to talk about hiring a full-time consultant about energy emission and greenhouse gases and global warming. And because we're trying to reduce the effect of overpopulation, overutilization. We see articles in the Enterprise about Green Pond, about Little Pond, with algae blooms. Last summer was terrible. There was times that you were prohibited from going in there, all from nitrogen runoff. When you improve a house like this, of course, they want to improve the lawn. They want to put in hardscape. You see the patio. They want to put nitrogen fertilizer to increase their lawns, and that's what happens. The more you do this, the more you build up the homes, the worse it's going to be for the natural resources in the Heights, those ponds. We also have sewers. They put in sewers. In Connecticut, when it rains, they overflow and raw sewage goes into the ocean. So sewers aren't even the answer. So I never get a chance to speak to the board. I've been in Falmouth for 60 years. I'm going to be 60. I've been coming to Falmouth and spending time here, and I appreciate it. It's a beautiful resource. And I just ask the board to be careful, and I know you will, with the precious resource we have. Just to not allow overexpansion of these homes, overcrowding of homes where the Heights isn't what it was. I know what the Heights was like in the 70s when we had Brothers Four Casino. It was a great time, but it wasn't the way it is now. And we just don't want to see it overexpand. My objection is to the garage, to the second story. As far as shadowing, I disagree with you that it's going to be better. It's not going to be better. The photo I submitted, it's a one-story garage going to a two-story garage, or a little more than two-story garage. Obviously, we'll add a lot of shadows in the afternoon. And I would just say that I don't think it's a good idea to allow in the Heights 2 separate residences. That's essentially what's happening, is you're going to have a home, and you have a second 2-story now residence. It's going to be either a rental or whatever it's going to be. I know from the Heights, every time I rented a house, you open the closet, and in the closet was air mattresses, cots, pull-out sofas. So you can label it a family room, you can label it an office, but instead of it saying, oh, there's only going to be 8 people in the house or 10 people in the house, there's only a 5-bedroom, 2 per room. we know that's ridiculous. There's going to be way more than that. So that adds to the population, to the sewage usage, the sewage system, cars. Now, and the last thing I'll say is now you can tell the population's increased and the density's increasing because the homes are getting bigger. And it can go up, but it doesn't mean it has to be bigger. And you don't have to allow a second residence. And that's my objection to this, because you walk the Heights Beach at 9 a.m. and you see out there 50 chairs. People put out their sand chairs in the morning to reserve their space because the beach is that crowded by noon that you can't get 15 of your relatives in a circle. They put them out at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. I never saw that in my life since I've been coming to the Heights. So it's just a concern that I had about the overall nature of the Heights, how it's going to develop, but I would ask that the board not permit the second-story garage. I think that they could make a design, and I know they spend a lot of money on the designs, where it's one family home like it is now. So that's my request. Thank you very much for your time, and allow me to go over to 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Spodnik. Anyone else?
I'd like to speak on it.
Oh, sorry, I'm acknowledging her back there. I'll get you next.
Hi, I'm nervous. I'm Pamela Turner, and we abut diagonally with Jonathan, and I like my neighbors, and I don't want to have problems with my neighbors. I'm happy he's able to do things. The only thing I'm concerned about also is the noise from the air conditioning unit, and I don't know where the generator's going, because at the corner of my house, there's a garage and there's a shed, and I can see into Jonathan's backyard, and I can hear everything. I don't think you realize, Jonathan, what I can hear.
So according to the plans, if you're looking at the current garage,
On the left-hand side.
yeah, you're on the.
You could change it, you could show them.
Oh, all right. So I'm just a little concerned with the noise.
But if you were looking at the current garage that's there, that's currently exists,
New,
That's,
the
right,
generator would be on the left-hand side.
I can see better on the big screen, may I?
Sure, go ahead.
So,
Oh, you're in the back.
oh yeah, we're right here. This is us.
So the generator is way up on the other side at the
That's on
top.
the far side where,
But I can still, you can still hear things.
Yep.
Very tight neighborhood. I'm just concerned about they're sound asleep on a hot night, and I'm lying in bed listening to that all night. My bedroom is right there. So I'm not opposed to Jonathan doing anything. I like Jonathan. That's what I'm concerned about. They're sound asleep at night. I'll cool in the house on a hot night, and I'm lying there going, oh my God, up all night.
oh, sorry.
Oh, she can't pick
Yeah,
up.
they can't hear it on
Closer
with the
to the,
microphone. That's okay.
So, I mean, I don't want to cause problems or anything. I like Jonathan, I like Pierre, I like my neighbors. I just wanted to voice my concern. I'm just concerned about a noise level, because we're really close. So I don't know. That's all I can think of. Oh, and also, I had one more. I was talking to Jonathan's wife, Pia. I don't know. I said, I hope you're not putting in a fire pit, and she said, you are?
We're not sure, it would be like a propane one, because we don't have enough coverage here.
Oh, okay, because with a
Okay,
fire.
we don't, during public comment, we don't have interaction between
Oh,
everyone. It's,
I've never been to
it's
one of
it's
these.
addressed through the board, but that's okay.
Sorry, I've never been
That's
to
all
one
right.
of these, so I don't know.
Yep.
So the prevailing winds come typically from the south. So I was just concerned about a fire pit. I'd have to close my windows. But if it's a propane gas one, it wouldn't be so bad. And I'm just concerned about noise in the back, that's all. It's my bedroom is right there, and I hear everything. I can hear them in the house. So, anyway, so it was just the noise level. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
But Jonathan, I'm happy for you.
Sir?
Hi, my name is Ian Cotterill, and I own 219 Grand and 20 Montgomery. And after carefully reviewing the plans for a long time and look at it, I really like the plan because it's conformed with the neighborhood. My house at 219 Grand, it's a 3-story house. And that house is not quite big as my house. And, I really studied the plan, and I don't see a problem with it. It's conforming with the neighborhood. It makes the neighborhood better. Which the court, as other people say, houses on Worcester Court, all those houses is going up. I never see anybody complain about those. And I also own 321 Grand Ave. That's not a 3-story house. It's part of the neighborhood. And most people, when they do get a small house, and the land is so small, only way to improve it is go up a little bit. So I really don't see a problem with that. And I think it's a good plan. Good for conforming with the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? You got you next. Yep, no, okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Susan Hiltz. I live on 221 Grand Ave, and I'm strongly in favor of the house. It's been in the family for almost 40 years, and that family has kept everything in pristine condition. It's been such an asset to this neighborhood, and I feel the design fits in with this neighborhood. It would be an asset. They've been a great family for almost 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Bowen, 102 Grand Avenue. I just wanted to put my support behind this project, even more so now that I listened to Mr. Dugan and Mr. Clower. I'm even in more support of it. I'm remodeling a house in Falmouth Heights right now. I didn't want to go up. I kept it the way that it was, so I think that the point that McMansions are being built or something, it's not happening. With me, I don't see it happening in this neighborhood. His property conforms with the area that he's in, because he's in the front block closer to the ocean, and that's where the other taller structures are. He also has a larger lot than I have, and so I think it's going to fit in just fine. As far as the air conditioning is concerned, is what I've learned. I mean, common sense tells me that it's behind that part structure of the building, and that's only going to send, if there is any noise, up higher, not out. I mean, you just look at it, it's behind an angled structure, and there's another point that I wanted to make, but and what I wanted to say is, I think he's already tried to appease the neighbors, and I don't think he would do anything to try to hurt the neighborhood. And I can only imagine he's already spent thousands of dollars extra to try to do this. I mean, he's it's the money factor, I'm sure, it keeps on going up every time there's a rebuttal about this. But and the point that I forgot that I wanted to make was, I don't think air conditioners run 24/7 all day long. I have an air conditioner right outside my bedroom now, and where I currently live, because we're remodeling, and that air conditioner is not on, constantly running or anything like that. But I think the main point is the common sense that you can see the structure has an angle on it, and that's just going to throw any noise up in the air and not spread it out. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, back to the board. Any other follow-up questions for Attorney Clower?
If I can just respond to a few things, one point that was made a few times that I think is just incorrect. This is by no means a two-family residence. This is a single-family residence. It is not segregated by any stretch of the imagination. There is just additional living space above the garage. I think the board has gotten away from imposing deed restrictions, but if the decision were to state that this may not be used as a separate rental until such time as they went and got approvals to do that, which they don't intend to do, I don't think the applicant would have any issue with that at all. It's not a two-family residence. It just isn't. It's incorrect to say that. I also think it's important to note when we talk about nitrogen and runoff and things of that nature, this is an improvement. They're putting in a brand-new Title V system that's replacing Lord knows how old cesspool. And they're reducing the overall lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking, so there's a reduction in the hardscape and the coverage. I thought it was worth pointing out, the garage has been moved even further away. So now we're talking about, almost 20 feet between the proposed garage and Mr. Spodnik's property, which I don't think there's a lot of houses in the heights that are 20 feet apart at this point. So that's not so bad. But I will be happy to address any other questions you guys might have.
Thank you, Attorney Flower. Any additional questions from the board?
No, it is a single-family house, though, correct?
It is.
So I understand, and we could put it's used as a single-family, but you can understand what the concerns are, is that for years it was
Sure.
also a single-family house, but it was probably used as a multifamily.
But there was a separate structure that was used that way. There's no
I
way
think
that
this, I think this does more to protect that, honestly,
Yes.
because you don't have the connection, but I think that's where the neighborhood sentiment is coming, because this just happens in
Sure.
the area, they just do it.
But I think this design lends itself to that not happening.
Just a question on the air conditioning again, it was a low ohms you said you use, is that, I mean, could we, in case we conditioned on a lower whatever system?
I mean, I would just state maybe, as low as possible. I don't know what the numbers are.
Right.
But, again, I just want to point out that, that was placed not only on the roof, but if you looked at its placement, it's the farthest away from everybody. And that's another reason why it's where it is. So it was the most logical spot for it.
Question, could you define, is ohms, O-H-M-S?
I think so.
That's power. Okay, never mind. I just,
It's Sohms.
oh, S-O-N-E-S.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, Sohms, that's much better. Okay.
Anything else from the board?
No.
This side? No? Okay. How would you like to proceed?
I guess motion to close if there's no.
I don't mind going to close, but I mean, since we need unanimous, I don't know if there's people with serious concerns. I know you could say it's a slippery slope, but if it's not unanimous, this goes down in flames.
I mean, we can close, and if that's the way it's heading, we can always reopen and allow them to withdraw.
That's fair enough.
or-
Okay, and I didn't mean to say go down in flames. It just, if we had five, it would be easier.
Yep.
Let's not use that terminology, Jerry.
Say again?
Let's not use that terminology.
Okay.
All right, Bob, were you making a motion then?
Yeah, I make a motion to close.
I'll second.
All right, motion to close made by Bob, second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Hearing is closed. No more testimony may be taken. Fair to have a discussion of the project prior to making them?
Yeah, so I
Any
know
motion?
there's a lot of the concerns came about the previous rental unit, and, even though they're building over the garage, the only access is through the main house. There's no secondary stairway, there's no exterior stairway. We can condition it that it is a single family, remain as a single family use. We can condition that the garage space on lower level not be habitable space. We can condition no separate cooking facilities. I mean, that's pretty much as you can do. There were questions about a fire pit. We don't have any purview over something like that. That would be a neighbor issue. As far as the air conditioning, if we can put something in there that they use whatever the lowest ohm system is to just try to mitigate some of the noise. As far as the generator, I think you can actually put some kind of buffer plantings around a generator that help. I know that I have one that goes off all the time, and I actually put plantings in just to try to buffer the noise back. But maybe we could get some kind of plantings around the generator as a buffer.
I think I have a generator. I guess even though we live not too far apart, there are operational considerations.
Yeah.
Considering this is a tight lot, I would, if we say anything, it just has to conform with either the generator manufacturer specs or the Board of Health specs. It can cause a problem. So it's my concern with it, totally enclosing it. And I think if, lowest available zones might be lowest reasonably, I mean, I'm sure you could spend $2,000 or more just to enclose something. And I don't know if that's when we say lowest available. That's different from lowest reasonably available. And, none of us know. I'm going that most generators comply with some type of noise standard that's acceptable within the state it's being sold in. And we haven't had many nuisance complaints from generators. I'm sensitive to the neighbors' concerns, but let's not spend other people's money when it's not really needed.
You know, I think the neighbor may have a valid complaint about shadowing, but they have moved the garage further from the lot line. They currently have a 5-bedroom home, so they can still have a 5-bedroom home, so. There's really no more room to move it forward, because it's on septic, it's not on sewer.
I agree with you, Bob, on the shadow. I mean, that's very subjective, and, you know.
I mean, the board may want to, at a later date, shadow comes up a lot when we do these projects. It's easy to get a shadow. It's very quick to get a shadow study put in.
And Bob, I agree with pretty much everything you said, and I'll just note that all the side yard, rear non-conformities, they're either being improved or eliminated.
I mean, pretty much everything. I mean, the
And
lot
they-
coverage is, going down, the total lot coverage is going down.
Mhm.
The only other concern I have, and I have on all of these, is that we are at max height. And we know what happens when they build these to max height. They always go over max height. So we would have to do a height cert at framing. It's turned into the board besides the building department. I mean, I wish honestly that the town would do them. Just because it's easier, but some kind of a certified height cert at framing, that it's not going to go over that 45-foot mark.
What, 5 feet? 35.
Well, it's 35, but with the elevation up, this is, visually, it's 45 feet. I mean, it's.
Visually, it's 35, I think, 'cause it's elevation above sea level. 45 is elevation above sea level, because the grade elevation's
I
10.
don't think we can go above 35 feet, even with the FEMA.
The hearing's closed. If you need that testimony, you have to reopen.
We can straighten it out amongst ourselves for the future things as to.
Anything else in terms of board discussion?
There are materials that are available for sound mitigation that you can use around air conditioners or generators.
Yes,
You
so
know,
maybe
it
where the
does
rail
lower
is.
the decibels some.
But the same-
That could be an option for them to consider. Might help reduce decibel output.
Right, anything else in terms of board discussion? None? There'll be a motion then?
Yeah, my only question is, because we have to put so many little things in here, should we, and I'd make a motion to approve a condition, should we do it as a draft to the administrator so that our next meeting we could vote the final? And we're talking about ohms and everything else, and I just don't want to rush something through.
I'd be in favor of
So
it.
then I would make a motion to have the administrator draft a positive approval. We can go over some of the findings and issues now, and then to be voted at our next meeting.
All right, anyone in the second that?
Second.
Thank you, James. All right, findings.
Property's in an AE 13 flood zone. It's currently a 5-bedroom, single-family home. It's remaining as a 5-bedroom, single-family. 240-3C, 240-69E, 240-216. There were testimony from rear abutting neighbor. There were some worries about sound from the air conditioning system. There was worry about sound from the generator and worries about shadowing from the 2-story garage structure. And also that the property would be used as a multifamily versus single-family with separate rental units. Testimony from the applicant is that it will be a single-family home. They are amenable to conditions that it remain as a single family, that there be no habitable space finished on the first floor of the garage, and that no additional cooking facilities. The shed's being eliminated.
Board of Health approved the Title V system, I think he's.
Yeah, Board of Health approved the Title V. There are improvements. You can just break them down, Noreen, to the the front yard, the side yard, the rear yard. Structure coverage going from 37.1 to 33.3. Structure parking and paving 65.9 to 44.7. That's about a 21% reduction. They would need to seek a driveway permit from engineering. There was not enough information about the surface of the current driveway, whether it be impervious or not. The meter would not be, the water meter would not be allowed to be in a pit, would have to be inside the main residence.
Put in a finding about the increase in the bulk of approximately 500 square feet.
Yeah, also that they did a negative determination of applicability with Concom.
Property become into FEMA, compliance with the FEMA guidelines.
Yep, and then also property is not, just because there's so many down there, property is not on the town sewer system, it's a private septic. Which is, again, is a concern on additional rentals.
New septic's being proposed, is that right?
Yeah, new septic,
In Title 5.
and it's H20, I think, because it's under the driveway.
All right.
I guess I take one exception. If it's going from a cesspool, 5-bedroom cesspool, to a 5-bedroom septic tank, in the Board of Health approving it without comment on nitrogen, I'm not sure we have the necessarily expertise, although we might have opinions, as to if it's having an adverse impact on septic tank nitrogen.
I don't think we said that.
Well, I'm not sure what you said. Maybe.
No, I said that was one of the concerns
Yes,
with
that
renting
was one of
with
the
multi-units,
concerns.
is that you'd be renting for more than what the septic would
Yes,
allow.
that was a concern.
Other findings?
The air conditioning system is behind a railing,
Second floor? Or is it
second floor.
or the roof? We should call it the roof.
Let's see this. Maybe we can go to some of the conditions.
Yeah, you want to do that, Bob? Conditions?
Yeah, so property is a single family to remain a single family. A condition that first floor of the garage not have any habitable space. Put in the findings, the first floor of the garage has a half bath. I'll see how the other board members feel, but I don't think they should have a full bath downstairs. I think we should condition it that it remains a half bath.
Yep.
No separate cooking facilities. Height cert at framing. Then let me give you the engineering. New home must have a water meter inside the home. Subsection 99.1, affixing of legible numbers, time limit for compliance. Put in the findings that dry wells are proposed and are on the plans. Subject under conditions, the applicant shall obtain an approved driveway permit and post any required bond with the engineering division prior to start of construction. Applicant shall complete the work as approved by the engineering division in the driveway permit.
Standard hours of work.
Yep, also, construction of the project shall follow the town's soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions.
What are we gonna do in terms of construction and vehicles and so on? It's a tight neighborhood.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to put something that all, oh boy.
Our construction vehicles have to remain on property.
Remain on
I think
site?
you want people to do that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to substitute, yeah, that vehicles and
If they-
materials remain on site, because you can't block the street at all.
Right.
That is narrow
Or
street.
just work with the police department to ensure there's not a traffic issue.
Yeah, you can put
Fine.
that in too.
So
I mean, the biggest
standard-
problem with that is that the
standard
street is only
conditional
one
use.
car width wide, so you're stuck. Put in there what we're adding in, that if there are violations to the conditions, that they can be recalled to the board. I think we should put a fine, stop putting findings in this, that if there are violations of the condition, that they're also subject to cease and desist orders. Put in that they submitted a bulk worksheet, lot coverage worksheet. I think that's it for now.
All right. Anything else this side? Anything?
No, I think that's a good start, and then if there's issues when we do the final go-over, we could just add any additional changes.
Sure.
Oh, per plans, did we put that in there?
I think we did, yep. That's important. All right, so that was a motion by Bob directing Noreen to draft a positive decision based upon our conversation tonight with findings and conditions. That was seconded by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, Attorney Clower.
Just take a brief break.
Yeah, you will. All right, we will take a 5-minute break. All right, we are back. Up next, we have the application number 16-21R. Court-ordered remand, Noonan, 183 Surf Drive in Falmouth, requesting a special permit to raise and rebuild the non-conforming dwelling, increasing lot coverage by structures.
So Noreen, what do I need to read in on this one?
Nothing.
Nothing, right? Because we opened it before?
Well, so this is a remand, so there's no new material in the file.
Right, so it says nothing to read at all anyways, it's just a remand.
You can just read the remand if you want, the remand order, but that's why we're here.
It's gonna be in their file, so it's just.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see,
Just
it's
read
just,
it.
we'll just put application, 1621R, court order remand, Joseph Mary Noonan, 12 Pheasant Hill Road, Norfolk, Mass. Applied to the zoning board of appeals for a special permit pursuant to sections 240-3C and 240-69E of the Code of Falmouth to raise and rebuild the non-conforming dwelling, increasing lot coverage by structures on subject property known as 183 Surf Drive, Falmouth, Mass.
All right, and Attorney Clower. As you already know, there's 4 of us. I can appoint Jerry as a voting member, and any decision the board reaches tonight would have to be unanimous.
Which brings me immediately to my next point. Part of the remand order states that in the event all regular members are not present at any meeting at which the public hearing is scheduled, the Noonans may request to continue the public hearing to the next duly scheduled meeting at which all regular members are present. However, nothing herein shall compel the board to allow such request for continuance. Given the tortured history of this particular application, in fairness and deference to everyone, I think it would be best if we proceeded with a full board. So I would respectfully request that the board allow a continuance until when we anticipate we'll have a
Chairman,
full
I'm going to make that motion,
member.
that we continue this hearing until such time. as we
Yeah,
have a
so
full
what's,
board.
Noreen, what's the next date?
Yeah, we just need a time certain, that's all.
And then we also remind the 4th or 5th member, if there's one, to review it under the, what's that rule, Mullen rule?
Well, there's no review. We're not
no,
actually
review.
gonna,
It's a de
we're just
novo hearing.
continuing.
Yeah.
There's no review.
Yeah, that wouldn't apply.
Oh, and we're not oh, that's right.
No, we're not doing anything.
So I would recommend March 10th, not to move things too far, but you
Yep.
have tightly packed schedules,
We sure do.
very tightly.
Is there anything closer?
February 24th, maybe?
You're gonna be,
Or is that?
you've got the continuation of the 40B that
Oh,
night.
wait, oh. Am I reading this incorrectly then?
I mean, the 10th and the 24th are packed tight. Unless you want to meet till 1 AM.
Would it be possible to have a 6 PM hearing begin? 6 AM would work too, but I don't think everyone wants to do that.
Is there a comprehensive on February 24th? I don't see it, unless I'm
We
reading.
we continued Percival
Oh, okay.
to the 24th. So, you know, I'm just suggesting that you have only so many hours.
So, Redlands- yeah, I guess we're not. So March 10th, you're saying?
Can we open at 6? Yeah, we have to repost
You know,
it, but
Well, we
Or can members
we
get
have
here?
time if we change, just the other one's the 24th too. The other one's continue 24th, so that's gonna be long.
I'll talk fast.
Well, can the chair, can you get here? I mean,
Well,
There are
I
three
think
people
I
working.
think the problem with those other nights, though, is you have a lot of cases with a lot of material to cover. And so I think it would just be more than you would have time to do on those other nights.
I mean, if we start at 6, I mean, I'd be coming in pretty quickly from work, but
but Noreen makes a good point.
But that's still, we still wouldn't be able to do on the 24th because the echo is gonna take up
We're
almost.
getting backed up pretty quick. Don't shoot me. Should we consider another Thursday night for a couple of things that are out further? Just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd stuck on those two because we got two 40Bs on the
yeah,
10th, and then we got the other one on the 24th.
so then we're out to.
We'd have to be the 10th of
So
March.
if we did the 17th, then could we move something else up from the 24th or the March 10th?
No, you can't
No,
change
they're-
the
No.
dates
they're
once
already
they've been
Oh, these are already
advertised.
They're all
posted?
noticed.
Yeah, they're already posted, so you can't
We
do
could
that.
repost them. I'm just trying to accommodate the board and
We'd have to do March 10th.
Yeah. Attorney Clower, I think because of the board schedule, we're looking at March 10th.
I think that's, if that's what it is, that's what it is.
Yeah, I wish we could accommodate you sooner, but
All right, so then I would make a motion to continue to March 10th, 2022.
second.
all right, motion was made by Bob to continue this hearing to March 10th, second by James, all those, I'm sorry, yep. Made by Bob, second by James, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your thoughtfulness on this.
Thank you, Attorney Clower.
So now we go with Zippo.
Members of the board, This might be my final presentation because I'm going to retire, so you won't see me at the next hearing. So I'm in negotiations to convey my firm to another firm, but I'm going to retire. So anyways, it's been fun.
Unexpected news and happy retirement if that's the case.
You can always stop by and say hi and take your own comments.
I promise all my fingers will be up when
I'm not retiring. You're stuck with me for a while. Sorry.
I would love to retire. All right, where'd it go? North Main?
Yep. All right. Up next, we have application 111-21, Sade, 6 and 10 North Main Street in Falmouth, requesting a special permit to raise the existing building, 6 North Main, expand existing parking to include 5 spaces for the display and sales of used cars, and install a new canopy structure encroaching into the street setback 10 North Main.
All right, so application number 11121, Jose 10 North Main Street, Falmouth, Mass. Applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for special permit and variance pursuant to sections 240-51B3, 240-68A8, and 240-203 of the Code of Falmouth to raise the existing building 6 North Main, expand existing parking to include 5 spaces for display and sale of used cars, install a new canopy structure encroaching into the street setback 10 North Main. The subject properties are 6 and 10 North Main. For referrals. Our project is outside of Concom jurisdiction. From engineering. Application was reviewed for impacts to public rights of way and public utilities. North Main Street is a public right of way in this area. The project will require filing a permit with the engineering division. Any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. The project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public rights of way. We request that the board either require the applicant to obtain an approved driveway permit from the engineering division prior to closing the hearing for this special permit, or that the board include the following condition: the applicant shall obtain an approved driveway permit and post any required bond with the engineering division prior to start of construction. The applicant shall complete the work approved by engineering division in the driveway permit. The roof areas will discharge stormwater into the on-site infiltration systems as typically recommended. Recommend adding subsection 99.1, affixing of legible numbers, time limit for compliance. We recommend that the construction of the project follow the town soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions. The documents found on the engineering website. And they did attach their review that was done for the planning board. The plans submitted for the ZBA application appear to be the exact same plans that were reviewed by the planning for all sheets except 9 of 13, which appears to be a revision of a fence detail to address a comment under new comments section. What that new comment was that sheet 9 of 13 has a detail with the title 6-foot-high cedar privacy fence, yet the detail shows it as an 8-foot-high, which matches the plans. And the applicant engineer submitted town stormwater calculations as well as unit hydrograph calculations. Our planning board did include an approval with their conditions. No comment from the assessors. As far as the water department, the water mains in service must be shown on the plans. The existing water service for 6 North Main will have to be shut off and cut at corporation stop at the main prior to any demolition. The existing water service for 10 North Main Street is 3/4 and should be upgraded to 1 inch for the new building per current Falmouth Water Department standards. Due to the location and depth of the new canopy supports, which are proposed on top of the existing service, it may need to be relocated to protect it after the canopy has been built. There was a submittal in the file from Olivia and Margaret Freitas, 1 Locust Street, regarding 6 and 10 North Main Street proposed renovations. We own the property located at 1 Locust Street, Falmouth, Mass. Abutting the proposed renovations at 6 and 10 North Main Street, we have the following concerns. 1, our property is a historic building built in 1806. Our building sits very close to the property line. The artist rendering in the application inaccurately shows a large white commercial building with a chain link fence around it instead of a historic building built in 1806. 2, the proposal includes the demolition of the existing building at 6 North Main, which has been allowed to deteriorate beyond repair. The building has become an unsafe community nuisance and definitely needs to be demolished. The proposed renovations show a large parking lot with at least 18 designated parking spaces. However, the application says they're only adding 6 for used car sales, and actually here it says 5. Much of the proposed parking and lighting will be very close to our building due to the nature and location. The seismic activity resulting from the proposed construction could cause extensive damage to the historic structure. There should be setbacks required for the new renovations and parking areas. 8 of the new parking spaces are within 3 to 4 feet of our residence. 2 to 3 15-foot light poles are proposed 3 to 4 feet from the residence. The dumpsters are proposed to be located 3 to 4 feet from the property. Be concerned about odors and runoff from the dumpsters. We propose parking be limited to 6 used car lot spaces, not 18. I think that's already done at 5. And located close to the gas station with no spaces closer than 6 to 10 feet. We propose installation of a 6-foot stockade fence along the side and rear. The plantings every 3 feet of at least 8-foot tall emerald green arborvitae instead of small shrubs along the side and rear abutting property lines with our parcel keeping the setback screen. No chain link with barbed wire besides the property. We propose to locate the dumpsters at the back corner of the gas station on the other side next to the building, not in the setback area to our yard because of potential runoff. We propose to relocate the existing pylon sign on the opposite front corner of the project parcel instead of relocating next to our building. We already have state signs in that corner. We propose, since the project borders a residential property, the 15-foot light poles shining at night should not be allowed. They should be reduced in size or relocated close to the gas station. It should not be allowed to be shining into our building at night. We propose limits to hours of operation and amounts of noise after improvements are completed, since this is a residential area. We propose extensive actual chemical soils tests of the soils at the existing gas station and dress shop be required as part of the project. Proposal only mentions testing a visually contaminated soils as part of the excavation management procedures in item 3. However, the current operation has been storing and working on broken cars extensively in the back unpaved area of the building, which may have caused existing soil and groundwater pollution. Thank you for your consideration. This is from September, but this is because it's in the historic district. This is from the Historical Commission. Dear Michael, at its meeting of August 4th, 2020, the Falmouth Historical Commission voted to approve the application for a certificate of appropriateness under the Falmouth Historic Conditions bylaws established under Mass General Laws, Chapter 40C, for the demolition of the building located at 6 North Main Street and the installation of a new canopy over 3 new gas pumps at 10 North Main Street as submitted by the property owner, John Hayden, trustee. At the August 4th meeting, the applicant proposed to demolish the existing building at 6 North Main Street with no replacement. The property is proposed to be used as parking area for cars. At 10 North Main Street, the applicant plans to remove the existing 2 gas pumps and install 3 new gas pumps with a new overhead canopy. The new canopy specs are the same as we previously approved under application 1908. The previous approved application will be canceled. The proposed work must be done in accordance with the documentation submitted at the time of application and discussed and revised at the August 4, 2020 meeting. All approved drawings and plans, including the application with materials listing, are on file at the Falmouth Planning Office. This approval in no way affects any approvals needed from ZBA or planning. Any new work not granted under the certificate of appropriateness or determination of non-applicability to be performed at the above referenced properties within the Falmouth Village Historic District boundaries. Any changes in architectural details, trim, etc., shall be presented by the applicant to the Historical Commission for review and approval. Adherence to this certificate of appropriateness is enforceable by the building commissioner, and that was signed by Edward Haddad. The Falmouth Planning Board listed their approval on the property, and just, you know, they only had 4 conditions. Plan shall be constructed as approved that was in front of them. Any changes shall be removed by the planning board to determine if any modifications would be necessary. No permit of the occupancy of the new building shall be used until the planning board is satisfied that all their conditions have been met. The applicant shall obtain an approved driveway permit or street opening permit and post any required bond. They should complete the work as approved by engineering. Construction of the project shall follow the town's soil erosion sediment control standards. And the applicant shall look into the opportunity to install solar panels on the overhead canopy structure, which might be an issue with historic commission. That's it.
All right. Mr. Schubert, as you've heard previously tonight, there are 4 of us. I'll be appointing Jerry as a voting member. Any decision that the board reaches tonight would have to be unanimous.
Correct. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, member of the board. For the record, my name is Hal Chuba. I'm a consulting engineer with offices at 112 State Road in Dartmouth, Massachusetts, and I do represent the applicant tonight on this application. If you recall, about 2.5 years ago, we came to this board for a special permit and a variance to install a overhead canopy over the existing 2 pumps at 10 North Main Street. The board granted the variance at that time, and I believe it's was special permit number 040-19. You probably have a copy of it in your file. At that time, we asked for a 22 by 46 canopy to be installed right on top of the existing pumps, and the canopy to be placed not closer than 7 feet from the street line. Since then, with the pandemic and the plan didn't go through, I think at that time, the tenant, Mr. Sadi, had the opportunity to talk to the owner. Mr. Hedram is here with me tonight, who owns the property along the southerly side of the gas station. So what we have here, this is 6 North Main Street, and this property is about 5,837 square feet. It has an existing outdated building, about 1,700 square feet, vacant currently. This property, this is 10 North Main, where the existing gas station is about 15,000 square feet, and it has a 1,925 square foot building that currently being used for car repairs. It's the existing gas station with 2 pumps between the building and the street. There's also a pump in the back to on the northerly side of the property for diesel. So basically, there's 3 pumps on the property right now. The existing building, which is being used for car repairs, and the existing building the vacant building on 6 North Main Street. Both properties are located in the B2 zoning district, and both properties are within the Falmouth Village Historical District. That's why we went to the historical first for the approval of the canopy, which you already have the approval on file. What we propose to do here, we propose to demolish the existing building on 6 North Main Street. This building is an existing non-conforming also in terms of setbacks. Demolish the 2 pumps between the existing building and the street on 10 North Main and the diesel pump in the back. Construct, also before we move to the modified site, I would like to mention that currently there's an opening on Depot Street, access to the property. There's 3 curb cuts on North Main Street, 2 of them on 10 North Main, accessing the gas station, and 1 on 6 North Main for the existing building. There's no landscape, kind of, broken pavement everywhere. We all know what 6 North Main Street looks like, the building, so I would say there's some need for improvements here. With the proposed site improvements, we would regroup or consolidate the 3 pumps into 1 canopy in 1 area, 1 fueling area, right between the existing building and the street. Demolish the existing building on 6 Main. Construct a 20 by 68 overhead canopy, which would be placed, I believe, 8 feet from the street, and this board previously approved the 7-foot setback. Close the existing curb cut on Depot Street, close the existing one of the existing curb cuts on North Main, improve the site circulation on site access by restricting the exit turning from the southerly curb cut on Main into a right turn only. So you can't make a left turn. Right now, there's 3 curb cuts on Main Street where you can make a left turn in any one of them. They're oversized. There's no defined curb openings. Also, we would add parking on the site. The parking would be in compliance with zoning. We would add landscape all around the perimeter of the site. And Mr. Dugan, I believe all the concerns or comments that you read from the abutters, they all addressed. Because that was during the site plan review. We sat down with the adjacent abutters. We worked out all, they were satisfied, and I believe they're not here tonight, so I mean, that probably speaks for itself. So define the parking areas, define provide new signage, improve the safety, access, and the circulation around the site. So add more parking, add more landscape. Also, part of the improvements would be adding a brand-new stormwater system on site. Currently, there is none. There's no stormwater system. All the runoff from site sheet flows in the southerly direction to the adjacent properties and in the northeasterly direction onto Main Street. So basically, we're collecting all the runoff, and we will infiltrate it on site, reducing the runoff from the site by 100%. This was reviewed by engineering. Again, all the 35 comments, whatever you were into, it's all addressed. Engineering, all they said they suggested that we add 3 conditions, which are the conditions that were included in the site plan approval. You add them to the conditions of the approved, if you approve the special permit and the variance. Also, the architectural of the canopy would be much improved and would fit nicely in the neighborhood, and that's why historical approved the appearance of the canopy. It would have a roof, a hip roof on. I believe you do have the elevations of the canopy on the plans. So the canopy will have an architectural shingle roof with white trim, as also we would have a brick concrete bases on the columns of the canopy to tie it to the existing building. I have some rendering showing the site with the site improvements and the canopy structure. The comments from the water department, that's could be included, and I mean, you need to go to the water department. Of course, we need to remove, or when we demolish the building, we need to decommission the water service from the main. That could be added on the, I don't see that this has to be, I mean, it's part of your condition. We have to exactly secure all the permit, including the curb cuts that, you know, the street opening from DPW as recommended by engineering. So basically, I think this is a much improved site in terms of safety, traffic circulation, traffic access to the site. In terms of aesthetics, you're getting a nice canopy with landscape. In terms of utilities, you're upgrading the utilities on the site. I think this is needed for the center of the town. Again, this was reviewed by engineering, and they have no comments except the recommended 3 or 4 conditions that you would add to your permit. Also, just because this is a variance application for the canopy, I would like to state that basically this is the only area where we can place the canopy. The canopy has to go over the pumps, and this is the only area on site. So you have an existing non-conforming site, you have an existing non-conforming lot, and there's no other way. We exhausted all other options, really can't do. And without having a canopy on top, it would make it hard for the building for the tenant to compete with other gas stations. You all know now. I mean, if I have a choice to go to a gas station where they have a canopy and I go to another gas station where they don't have a canopy, it's no brainer. I'll go somewhere where they have a canopy. It protects the clients, it protects the workers there. Sometimes it's hard to find people to pump gas because you don't have a canopy, and we know in the wintertime or in the summertime standing there for 8 hours a day. So it's really something that would present a hardship to the applicant if not granted by this board. And as I mentioned before, you did approve a canopy that was placed 7 feet from the property line. And by the way, we do have a building permit for that, especially, so if we go through this and this is approved, I think I would assume that you would probably annul or make the previous special permit or variance void. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and I really kindly ask the board to look at this favorably tonight and approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shoup. Bob, any questions?
I like the layout. Were you thinking of solar, or did planning just?
No, just said, I mean, we'll look into it.
I'm only asking because it seems to me that if you did that, you'd be forced back in front of historic again. And
No.
Yeah.
I think maybe they didn't think maybe they thought they had an opportunity because you have a roof and they mentioned that. No, I don't think it's a.
And just for the record, so because we're dealing with two variances, so the uniqueness of the shape of the lot.
Correct.
And the location of the pumps would require you don't have another thing.
It's the same
have a hardship for
parameters
the-
that you had with the previous one. I don't think, anything changed.
I wonder if the solar request was related to
I
the
think
future
it's-
of electric cars? and
I think
being
it's,
able to
no, I
provide
know, I
for
think
that?
it's just a new thing, and the problem is, it's a nice idea, but if you have to think of all the other permits you have to get in order to get solar, it's tough. Just as an aside, there's a lot of weird telephone poles there. Are those in the green space now, or?
Yeah, they are. And one of the guy wires will have to be relocated because of the, but that we'll work that out with the utility company, so.
All right, that's all I have.
James?
I have no questions at this time.
Gary?
I'm assuming you're gonna need a 21E for this site, either from the fire department or.
There were no comments from the fire department. I don't, 21E for.
Environmental investigation,
For what?
soil and contamination.
Well,
You're tearing up the existing tanks and everything else, right?
no, the tanks are staying. We're not touching
Oh,
the
okay,
tanks.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's,
Right.
all right, I got ahead of myself.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
All right, and my concerns about the variance were already addressed, so I don't have anything. Yeah? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Peggy Freitas. I own the property 1 Locust Street. And I did have concerns and called Hal and addressed them, and he said, he sent me an email saying that they've been revised and addressed all of our concerns, and he did. Except I think there was an oversight on just 1 or 2 points.
And when you're speaking, it's just to the board.
Oh, I'm sorry. An oversight on 1 or 2 of the points that I just want to make sure that they get corrected and included. It was the installation of the stockade fence along our property line. And in the plan, I looked at it and said, oh, good, the fence is there. But then when I magnified it, I realized the fence is only along one part of our property line. It's not the entire yard. So I would like the fence to be with the tall 8-foot green shrubberies, the entire property line, which is west and south. We border two sides of his property. So I'd like to be able to get out of my car and not look at the back of the gas station. So that fence should be, I think it was probably just an oversight, because he agreed that that's what they were going to do when we talked. But I just want to make sure that's included in the plan, that the 8-foot stockade fence goes along our entire property line, not just half of it. And then the other thing that I'm concerned about is the contamination in the soil at the back of the gas station, because it's been there many years and it's not paved, and they work on cars back there and store old cars back there. And since they're doing all this excavation, it's an excellent opportunity to test those soils, just to make sure something doesn't need to be removed, because it will infiltrate our yard if it is contaminated, and hopefully it's not.
I guess I have a follow-up.
Thank you.
No, for Mr. Chuba, actually.
I'm sorry.
So I could see
No,
where
no,
she,
sorry.
I could see where she referenced the, Mr. Chuba, that fence at the beginning, but do you have enough room in the back to put plantings and a fence?
We do show the fence, I believe, on the southerly and the westerly side with the arborvitae's all around.
All right,
When
I just couldn't see it on here, so.
final plan, it's not shown on one side.
Sorry, I really don't want
It
to
is.
back and forth with everyone, but
Yeah,
thank you.
it is shown. And as far as the contamination, I mean, we always have this, the notes on demolition that all the construction will be under an LSP, so in case they
There you
test
go.
the soil. So
Thank you.
we do this, but I mean, that's what we do. We do gas stations, so it's not something that. Okay.
All right, anyone else? Back to the board.
Make a motion to close.
Second.
Okay, motion closed made by James. I'll give that second to Jerry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Hearing is closed. No more testimony may be taken.
A motion to approve of conditions.
Second.
All right, thank you, Bob. Thank you, James. Findings?
So we're gonna do, so we've got two variances, and, so 240-51B3, but 240-68-8 and 240-203 are variances, so those are gonna have to reference the unique shapeness of the lot, that the gas pumps can't go in that specific, any other specific location without causing a sufficient hardship for, because we have to do something for lot shape or, you know what I mean? So we would just list those as findings under the two variance items.
Same conditions.
Yeah, same conditions as before. Notifying that the water department stated that with the upgrade, because it will be located under the new canopy, they may have to look at that after that canopy is installed. Reference that they're closing the current driveways, and they're going to basically a one entrance in, one entrance out. There's a right turn only lane on the, is that the Westlake portion?
I think so, yeah.
They've really improved the traffic flow on the lot. And I think by doing this with the landscape, they've lessened safety issues with the site. But there was testimony by an abutter that they had met their requirements, which included an 8-foot fence along their whole property line, along with the arborvitae and landscaping. There was mention of an E21 report, but they're gonna have an LCS there when they do anything, so that's not needed.
LSP.
LSP, sorry.
All right, so we're confirming that's an 8-foot fence, not 6?
It is an 8-foot
Okay.
fence. And
8
we
foot
revised the detail, sheet number 9 to reflect that. It's 8
Perfect.
feet on the site, but the detail showed 6, so we changed the detail sheet, so.
Okay, so we'll just, all right.
Yep. Any other findings?
And also that, the finding that they're going for, that 5 of the spaces will be used for, on that side of the lot, for sale of used cars.
You did mention historic certification.
Display and sales of used cars.
Bob, did you mention the historic?
No,
Oh.
not yet. Also put the new canopy is gonna be 20 by, 20 feet by 68. Put on there the repairs garage at 10 North Main is remaining. That they have a certificate of appropriateness from Historic. And any derivation from their plan would have to go back to Historic. Is after that just conditions?
All right, conditions then.
So the soil erosion and sediment control standards. The driveway permit, so the applicant shall obtain an approved driveway permit and post any required bond with the engineering division prior to start of construction. The applicant shall complete the work as approved by the engineering division in that driveway permit. Upon completion of the construction, the applicant shall post the address for the property per subsection 99(1), affixing of legible numbers required and time limit for compliance. Did we have anything else on our prior?
So the abutter did raise an issue about lighting, so I think you could
Yeah, so why don't we put
request
it,
that it be
requested it be,
shielded.
shielded lighting on that side.
Abutters, so that there's no shed of light.
Yep.
Application did include a lighting plan.
Is the term dark sky compliant, or is that, it doesn't shine on the abutters?
Yeah, we can put dark side
Yeah,
compliant, but
yeah.
you need to put shielded in, because it.
Yeah, but I think depending on the height, dark
Okay.
sky compliant might not be the best. It might need to be
Okay.
shielded so it doesn't.
Residential stuff.
Okay.
And then you refer to the latest plan revisions.
Do we
Put
have hours of operation?
it,
I don't think we had any testimony to that.
No? Okay.
it's commercial district, so,
I don't know if the town.
we should put something in, like James said, though, to check with if they have any issues with the, fire department or police department for traffic.
State highway that runs right in front, that's heavily traveled, so, yeah, just work with the police department.
And then re-put in the, in the conditions, the size of the canopy. And also no construction vehicles to be parked on any of the public roadways. All material to be kept on site. Then put the same that we've done on the other ones on the recall, if there's a problem with the violation of conditions.
If that guy wire is moved or any poles are amended, you would need to just give us a copy of the corrected plan as well as engineering for that.
Absolutely.
Maybe still,
The installation of the arborvitae should be maintained.
maintained with, just so if you do on the other one, so it's a,
Die,
within
they
2-year period,
replaced.
they're replaced. I think we do, don't we do 2 years, or do we do?
Well, I mean, I think if you're talking about landscaping from commercial to an abutter,
Why don't you just put,
you
have to
may
be
want to
made
just say that it's to be maintained.
in good conditions to keep the buffer complete.
Okay, anything else?
No, I mean, you can always, whatever this new clause you're gonna start putting in about,
Subject
I'm
to
not
recall.
saying there's gonna be a violation, but if there are, that whatever clause we do, they could be subject to cease and desist orders. I think we should stop putting that in all of them.
And did you put comply with soil erosion and sediment
Yeah,
control? right?
control standards.
All right, so we're all set with that?
Yeah, I don't think we need a height or anything, or,
Nope.
no.
All right, so there was motion to approve with conditions made by Bob, second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Cuba, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that does it for our hearings. On to our open meeting items. First, we have voting the minutes of December 16th, 2021, and January 13th, 2022.
And just the 16th.
Just the 16th, all right, so the 16th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of December 16, 2021.
All right, motion to approve made by James. Is there a
Seconded.
second? Second by Jerry. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain only because I didn't finish reviewing the 16th.
All right, so 3 ayes and 1 abstention. January 13th is tabled. Up second, we have the status of Kendall Lane, formerly Helmus Circle. Comprehensive permit number 90-17, Helmus Circle LLC. Marion.
So we have had ongoing problems. I thought that the latest update was that the corrections had been made, but there's still some ongoing concern. We were in touch with the building department about the soil erosion and sediment control issues. Somehow the part-time building commissioner, I guess, didn't understand that the board was looking for cease and desist, or maybe thought that it wasn't necessary and that the issues could be worked out.
So didn't you asked for a cease and desist though, didn't you?
I did pass that information along.
And I understand what you're saying, but you actually did tell them you wanted a cease and desist, so
I think the problem.
over a long period of time.
Right, I think the problem is that, and maybe the board wants to, give some time and consideration to what types of steps you want to take when these types of issues are happening. I mean, certainly engineering was very concerned about the conditions. They were concerned about the delay for the applicant in responding to the concerns and correcting the problems. Particularly when there's storm events and, that's exacerbating the issues. And, the other piece that sort of weaves into this is a development where there's multiple homes. So we're continuing to get these building application requests coming into the office looking for sign off. And, frankly, I'm having a concern about continuing to sign off on future building permits where they're not maintaining the site. And I don't want to unilaterally make these decisions, but I think it's something that the board needs to consider.
I think your concerns are completely valid. Sorry, I didn't intend to.
No, and there was also an issue about, they had a permit through the, I believe it's the EPA, and that permit, I forget what the expression was, but basically, right, they had a permit, but then they didn't have a permit, and now it's my understanding from the town engineer that there's not to be work going on a site absent having that permit in place. So there's multiple levels of a problem here that need to be addressed. And so I guess I'd be looking to the board to make some determinations as to how you want to manage these types of problems.
Could you touch on, you said they worked overnight and they repaired, or maybe I misread it, they repaired a water main without telling the water department?
So initially, they worked, I believe it was 2 nights overnight, absent permission from the town. There was no permission to work those hours.
And against that
And then they.
Was it for water main? It wasn't an emergency?
Well, yeah, there was. So during their overnight work, which they reportedly were doing so that they weren't disturbing traffic or neighbors or something, they did contact a town water main, and there was a substantial issue related to that.
Okay, just wanted to.
So I actually saw that when it happened. So when you say a substantial water issue, almost half of the site was flooded with pretty heavy knee, waist-high water.
Wow.
It actually didn't look like a site. You didn't see the road. It looked like a lake. It's my understanding that the issue the town had, because of course they want to fix it right away, was there was also an issue of dig safe. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, but it seemed that there was a concern that they may not have had DigSafe go in, so they didn't know where utility
I
lines
do
may have
know that the water super indicated to me that they clearly dug where they were not supposed to.
So you
And
have, so on these situations like this where you have a development, it's one thing if you have one specific issue or one violation, but right now, it's my understanding the site still is not in compliance. There are either 2 or 3 ongoing construction buildings going up. The only way you can get conformance with these is a cease and desist order, because if you're building something to sell and you want to get the project going, you want the product. So if you have a cease and desist, that puts you under the gun to fix everything quick so you can get back on your schedule. If we don't get a cease and desist on projects like this, there is no conformance to any of the conditions. I drove by the Alma Road side on the way in here tonight, and I think that the erosion controls that are there have had more issues. I do not understand when you specifically request a cease and desist, and it's not understood. You had requested a cease and desist for another 40B that had clear cutting, and that cease and desist was put right in place. And then you request one for another one, and it's gone weeks. And I also don't want to be seen as that when you request one of these, they're going to force it on this site, but they're not going to force it on another. They should be enforcing them across the board, just to make it fair to everyone. So I do not understand, it's not your fault, Larry.
No.
I do not understand how there's any construction going on there at all, when even our own engineer says there's still issues on the site that they have problems with. And then I've gone by there on a holiday where they're working, or.
That was another problem that arose, was work on a holiday.
It's just complete lack. Now, past all of that, I went up to relook at the file, because you said you were getting building permits, and I just wanted to see if what was been released, so that I know they're allowed to start building those houses. I have some concerns on what the building permits are, and this may be a typo, but I do not remember any decks being on any plans. And we looked at, 3 or 4 permits where we're there, and literally on the drawings, they say 10 by 10 deck or patio next to a 10 by 10 deck or patio.
Right.
It's a patio, it's fine, it's great, but if the building department is looking at a permit that says deck or patio, and we don't say anything that there's an issue with it, and then somebody starts putting a deck, well, the building department's gonna go by what the plans they have. They don't have enough setbacks for that. I remember when the project was in front of us, because the lot lines are so close to the abutters, decks were always an issue, because you're gonna hang out on the deck and it just has a higher elevation, so even if somebody puts up a fence, you have issues. I know some of the trees from the site that came down, which it may not even be their fault, during the last storm event. There were felled trees on other structures. I don't know what the outcome of any of that was. Are they supposed to remove any of that fallen debris that's down?
Trees onto their property?
No, I mean, I saw a tree on a shed, on a shed.
Someone else's property.
Yeah, I mean, it's not there now, the tree's gone, but I don't know who lives in the house, but the issue is that on that side of the street, a lot of the people aren't there in the winter.
So,
I don't even know if that person
so a
even
tree
knows.
from this property fell onto a
Yeah, because these
butter's
trees were
property
huge. Well, fell onto the shed.
of another property.
I mean, you could see it just down.
So,
the shed.
yeah.
And I think they're,
That
I'm not
becomes,
gonna walk
I
on
think, a
people's
civil-
properties, but
No.
my guess is there's so many big trees back there that you just see driving by. I don't know if that's happened anywhere else. There's also that black material they put around the site, which must be erosion controls. We can't see the silt fence in between a lot of the houses, because there's so much piles of debris on the other side. If you're in the development, you can't see the silt fence, and we can't see it from the housing side. So someone needs to walk that information. And on a peer review, I was stunned that peer review hadn't been down there since, was it October?
Right, so unfortunately, the way the peer engineer review is structured is their basically there to step in for town engineering, and they anticipate the developer to call them within certain inspections they're due to take place, as opposed to something that the Board of Health does, where they may do a pop-in inspection somewhere. The peer doesn't undertake that role. So right now, what we've done is if there's been a call or a complaint, we typically contact town engineering first, because we have personnel immediately available here that can go out and take a look. And so typically what happens, and what did happen here, was town engineering went out and took a look and was very dissatisfied, and so then the peer engineer was called in as well.
So I would, just personally as a member, I would hope that town engineer would go out, if they have time with everything else they're doing, sometime tomorrow morning, because with the kind of
You have a
storm
storm
event we're
coming.
about to have,
Yeah.
even if they take photos of what's there now and they can compare something later on, I don't know why the bailing keeps getting broken down in that Elma entrance. It appears that they're driving over it, but I know that I've always seen the gate locked. I've never seen it open over there. But that's heavy weight to break that stuff down and to move it. So I'm wondering if maybe some of the workmen are using that sometimes to get in and out for certain things or not, but it's very specific that that entrance can't be used at all as construction. And my biggest worry right now is that every single comprehensive permit we have, ongoing, has a problem. And none of it is being enforced. And I'm sure the state doesn't know they have a problem. And you assume you'll get these once in a while, but all of them, I mean, all of them have the same issues. And it's almost like when the workers or developers or whatever they're thinking is, they see one person getting away with it and think, well, we'll just do it, maybe we'll be okay. These people on Kendall seem very savvy. I mean, they're very experienced developers. I didn't expect this kind of a situation. And it seemed like when they had the flooding way back, they were actually shopping to see if they could change their work hours over our permit. And the other departments said no, so they just did it anyways. So where's our, I mean, why have a zoning board that does comprehensive permits for the state if we have absolutely no enforcement? I mean, we've got, I mean, are they even checking to see if for every 3 homes you're building, they're building an affordable unit? Do they relook at the plans if you have a development that's proposed and they come in with a base rate of what they think the costs are gonna be, and then as they start doing the development, that base rate sales changes 4-fold?
Yeah, I think, you
Does
know,
anyone
I
ever
think.
check up on that? I
right,
mean, I know
so-
they can only make
right.
20%, but if you're talking that, I mean, it's
So,
just,
yeah.
it's just the nature of the real estate market. The real estate market has exploded so much price-wise that
So the
there's no way these
right.
developers are at 20%.
No, I mean, the financial end will be a whole separate deal at the end when the state reviews.
But how do
right?
they handle it with like like I wasn't even sure, so on the building permit you gave, they give a base cost. So is that just based on the construction cost, or are they also looking at as a assessment cost? What is that on the building permit, do you know? Because those plans are coming in at 200,000.
I don't know, I'm guessing that they're looking at that as being
I think so,
their
too.
proposed
I
cost.
think all of Bob's comments, but I think we're getting a little bit deep.
It's just everything is off on the.
But we have to just start pecking away, like, I thought I read someplace and I should have known, but I forgot. So they're violating a federal stormwater permit. And can we call up, is that not our responsibility? I mean, it says, they're supposed to have a sign posted and with a telephone number to report. I don't know if Scott, as a town engineer, could call up. I don't know if we could call up. It seems to be, it's not our enforcement, but that's a phone call from somebody.
I mean, I think you have to make send a statement to the entire Board of Selectmen and the town manager and let them know that every single one of our projects is a problem.
I think we're trying to
Right,
step by
so-
step.
so I
The
think
federal one,
right.
it should be a telephone call from somebody.
Yeah.
If
And-
you can't,
and-
if you're not allowed to.
No,
do
I
it.
guess the question is, who's doing that? And certainly, I think certain individuals feel that because it's not within their jurisdiction, that it's not up to them to do.
Oh,
I don't have any problem if somebody's reporting to me that this permit that they're required to have, they don't have, and they're continuing to do work.
So can the
I don't have a
state-
problem
So, I
making
mean,
the call.
Especially,
guess-
check with the town manager.
Right, I'm just
Just
looking
make a
to the
phone call.
board to see what exactly you want to do when these problems are occurring.
Is there someone at the state level that can enforce comprehensive permits?
They have a
It's under
stormwater.
state statute.
Yeah, I mean, the state's not really involved in the day-to-day of what's going on here, but, so what I'm asking you is, I don't necessarily want to act in the board's stead and suggest that somebody issue a cease and desist unless you as the board want that to be what's done when these problems arise. I don't consider it to be unreasonable. I think the building commissioners trying to be very generous and allow people to continue doing work. But I think when you find that repeatedly people are ignoring conditions that were put in place for a reason.
Your letter to the town manager was very comprehensive. I don't know why the temporary building commissioner ignored it, but I mean, if you go into the level you did, and you just said you don't do it lightly, I think maybe that's an issue that the chair could bring up with the chairman, with the town manager later, and maybe we start writing, we CC the selectmen on every time we find a violation. We hit them with it, along with the town manager, so he knows what's going on.
Yeah, I think there's certainly, the last time this arose, which was about a week or two ago, somewhere in there, there was a problem with personnel, right? So, I was out of the office, and apparently there was maybe not an individual in the building department who could do this enforcement. That being said, I did have a separate Zoom conversation with the building commissioner today, and he did point out that if these developments have, for example, posted hours
They did.
at the site, and that if they are violating those, that the police can enforce.
Oh, that's
But,
interesting.
what you're not looking at that circumstance, you're looking at the circumstance where they're violating the stormwater and sediment. And now, of course, the police department is not gonna go there and look at whether their soil erosion sediment controls are sufficient, because that's not their jurisdiction.
Correct.
But, the other part of the problem is we have town engineering that's going out there and saying this is wrong, but they don't have any enforcement. So,
Ask them about the possibility of who can be appointed a zoning enforcement officer, not, if it can be delegated to peer engineer with training.
No,
I
so
mean,
you'd have to, the problem with that, and it's a good idea, the problem with that is the only way to do it, you have to actually create a new position.
no, I think you have to be, you have to be a certified building commissioner or
So it's
have
No, but
some
even
designation
even
to-
that, it's a long term, you have
we
to,
can contract it out. I'm talking about to try to address the situation we have where we know we don't have town staff and we're probably not gonna get it. We cannot deputize.
so if you decide you want to go that way, and let's say,
Just a thought.
let's say contract it out, so you would still have to, it has to go in front of town meeting, because it's appropriation of funds.
No, it would be something that would be paid for under the peer engineer contract. He's going out and doing an inspection.
But see, the peer engineer
But
can
the
only
peer
report on
can't,
enforcement.
the peer engineer cannot issue a cease and desist
Okay,
or
that-
fine or
My feeling is
anything
if you
else.
start getting people who are willfully and maliciously violating conditions and not playing by the rules,
Right.
a cease and desist is the appropriate thing to issue.
Okay.
And how we get it out quickly.
And at least if you put it in and request it, at least
Right,
we have
so
a history of it.
I think if you, as the board, are suggesting that that's the response you want, based on as you mentioned, people willfully neglecting the conditions that are in place to the detriment of the town, that you intend to have a cease and desist order enforced until the conditions are rectified. And I don't know if you want to also say that you're not going to issue any new building permits, or we're not signing off on them until conditions are improved.
That puts you in
Oh,
tough, that puts you.
No, and actually, it's the same as a cease and desist, because if they're already in violation with the current construction,
How do you give them permission to do more?
because they're in violation, and
Right.
all you have to say is, but you're still in violation. Doesn't really put you in they are in violation. Can we vote that in an open section meeting, or do we have to have it on an agenda?
Well, we did bring it up that we were going to discuss it,
that
so I
one.
think, you know, if it's, you know, something that the board wants to pursue,
agenda item.
I think it's perfectly fine that you can opine on that, because, you know, we obviously have a problem as early as tomorrow with this is gonna be
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is gonna-
inspected by engineering
We've got 4 or
again.
5 things, and this is just gonna steamroll quick.
You know, and certainly if we start first thing in the day, I've already sent the town engineer an email to please check that out.
If was this settled, can the board, as the board, request a cease and desist order formally?
I don't see why not, because here's the circumstances. You issue a decision, and it becomes building department's requirement to enforce all the conditions of your decision. And if your decision says you will maintain the soil erosion and sediment controls in good working order, and they're not being maintained, then they're violating condition of the decision.
So that would take a vote from us. I don't know if it's putting too much of a burden on your shoulder to say.
Right,
You have
so-
overridden- You're authorized by us to
Right.
request a cease and desist.
So I guess.
So it could be done quickly.
Right, so I think if the board
Make a
is
motion.
is stating that this is your preferred response, rather than me asserting for you that that's what you would like, it makes sense, because
definitely.
I think the problem is that we have a meeting once every 2 weeks, and when these problems arise in between, it falls to me to act in your stead to some extent. And I don't want to create things for you, rather to give you the opportunity to say what your preference would be.
But if we don't start establishing a process, we requested a cease and desist, the building commissioner didn't respond. No, we may be well beyond it. Let him appeal it. I mean, I hate to
Right, see
just,
what happens.
I mean, that's the only thing the town seems to understand.
Right, but I think if you as the board are stating unequivocally that you want the cease and desist order placed if people are not following
Yes.
conditions, then that's quite straightforward. And it's not me suggesting that this take place, it's the board stating, this is the response we want if they're not following the conditions.
And you would put the specific conditions down, so.
Yeah,
Point of order, it's approximately 9:30, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I was gonna
I'm
keep my,
timed out.
I was gonna keep my comments very brief. Rules are meant to be followed.
Yeah.
If everyone was following these comprehensive permits, then we would never be in this situation. And unfortunately, over the past 2 meetings, we've had 3 discussions on 3 separate projects of major violations. They're not minor, they are major. And it's nothing against 40B projects, they're major projects. And it's a violation of a failure to follow basic construction protocol. And that's my issue that I'm having with these projects. And if we don't do anything, no one's gonna listen to us.
Correct.
And
The carrot hasn't worked, Mr. Chairman, it's time for the stick.
that's right. So, those are my comments,
You have a
being
comment from the-
9:29.
so that being said, I'm assuming that if we continue to see these violations in place, that you would anticipate a cease and desist, and that the office is not going to sign off on any further requests for building permits until
it's in
someone is in
compliance.
compliance, period. Okay.
Richard,
While he's
we-
going to the podium, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, I'm going to move that we extend the board's business by 15 minutes.
Very good.
Oh, he can move fast.
Made by James, seconded by myself. All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Richard, we don't normally allow public comment, but since you're the only one here, it's 9:30.
For the record,
floor is yours, sir.
Richard Johnson, I'm a landscape architect, registered landscape architect. In light of this discussion, one other thing I would add or suggest that you add is whenever a cease and desist order is issued against a developer of a 40B project, that the state be notified of that.
Yep.
Good point.
So that you build a track record with that particular developer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Richard.
So do we have to make a motion or no?
All right.
And then, did we have a question about, beach plum, right?
It's on tonight.
Oh, no, Rebecca Ann. So with Rebecca Ann, you had requested a landscape plan.
Mm-hmm.
They are looking for, I believe, building permit sign off as well. So I guess the question I have to you is, do you want the landscape plan prior to a sign off on a building permit? And I guess what I would say to you is, you had a condition in the decision about soil erosion and sediment controls and about clear cutting,
And they just
and
didn't.
they did not attend to those. So I guess the question I have to you is, do you believe that it makes sense to wait and see what they're gonna propose for landscaping prior to sign off on a building permit?
Yes.
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 Okay.
And that should be across the board from now on. We don't, what we require is required before we have sign off on permits.
Because I think if, if that's the board's choice, I agree with you, it makes sense, but it also doesn't appear as though I'm unilaterally making
Correct.
these determinations.
Exactly. And Noreen, about the board's policy going forward and asking for cease and desist orders, should we mark that up on, like, the next hearing as an open meeting item? That way we can have a
Yeah, we can certainly do that, because I think the problem is that when these problems come up,
It's gonna be 2 weeks out. And if we don't give them some kind of teeth now, we've got 2 more weeks where these projects are having problems.
right. But my problem
We
is.
could always adjust it.
Yep.
We could always adjust it at a later date, but we could do,
Well, we can instruct her to do that for Kendall Lane for now, and then at the next hearing,
well, how is,
discuss it.
This is, we did, unfortunately, this is discussion, this is not a hearing. I don't know if you can just say.
Well, it's discussion on Kendall Lane,
It's a
so I don't know if we
discussion
can
on
add
Kendall
that.
Can we take a
in.
vote? Well, I guess we could, I'll leave it up to you.
Kendall was posted.
Kendall was posted, so I would make a motion that you again request a cease and desist on Kendall Lane until the project is under compliance with the conditions of the comprehensive permit.
All right. I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. All right. And then for another.
Then if you could, on the next hearing date, in the open, put that we could vote in a policy for all.
Yep. Bob, would you mind if you add to that, that Noreen is allowed to notify EPA about this violation?
Oh, no, we should add that along with the cease and desist, actually, it should be any violations of the comprehensive permit conditions a notification should go, in this case, to
To the
EPA, but
appropriate-
also to the, you need to go to the state.
Oh, the state stormwater person as well as.
Yeah.
All right, so Bob's motion as amended,
To
seconded by
include the EPA
myself.
and the other.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Board updates, anything?
I think you just want to address the change in date for your Saturday meeting.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna get to that. Do we have a new date? Obviously, there's an nor'easter on the way, so.
We're
we won't have a meeting Saturday
shopping.
morning.
New dates are being circulated for February.
All right,
Yeah.
so we'll consider it postponed for now.
But I think, yeah, for anybody who is interested in attending this Saturday, that indeed we're going to be staying
With
home and
food.
shoveling
Yeah.
instead.
Stay safe, stay warm.
Yeah.
Watch out for the no power.
All right, future agenda items, anything? All right, seeing none, our next meeting is February 10th, here at Town Hall, 6:30. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.